Welcome to part 14.2 of Nuclear Dragon. If you encounter any issues or have feedback, please let me know in the comments rather than just disliking the video. Your input helps me improve, and I'm here to make sure you have the best experience possible. Enjoy the content.
Chapter 336. The two semi-god monsters in the azurite pit are even more stiff, and the violent aura is as real as the essence. The kyanite on the surrounding pit walls cracked under this power. The original monster was curled up, staring at the terrifying existence that suddenly changed from a small size to a behemoth with terrifying eyes. Howl! Sapphire Tiger bowed and let out a low roar, which contained warning and a little panic. The azurite snake kept spitting out the snake letter, and its body kept walking downstream. It wanted to stay away from the source of fear in front of it. An ignorant beast has no value in subduing it. Shillong muttered to himself, raising his two front paws with one move. Terrifying suction emerges. Azurite tiger and azurite snake flew directly above Shillong's two claws along with a large amount of kyanite. Under this suction force, the two giant beasts are like young milk cats, extremely weak. Snap, snap. With two crisp sounds, the two monsters fell into Shillong's claws. Then one claw grabbed a monster, and the two claws joined together. Boom. The terrifying impact erupted, and the whole pothole was shaking a few times. The two aquamarine monsters on Shillong's paws did not even utter a roar, and were instantly photographed into powder. Can't die anymore. Instinctively opened his mouth. Shillong sucked the powder of the two monsters into his mouth. After taking a closer look, he smashed his mouth. It has no taste. It feels like white flour. Well, maybe some sauce is good, he commented, just when he wanted to continue flying down to collect kyanite. The entire huge pothole was turbulent. Rumbling, the roar echoed constantly. Shillong discovered that the star core under the pit was shaking. Facing him, the crust there began to crack, and wisps of blue light gleamed from it. It's like a cooked egg shell. The little chicken inside suddenly broke through the crust and exposed its head. Then the whole body got out of it. This is a real monster. It looks a bit like a sperm whale. It is blue-gray. The shark fins on both sides of the body are very huge, like wings. After it got out of the crust, it floated quietly in the air. It is huge, far bigger than Shillong. Body length is more than 2 kilometers. The body width is close to 1 kilometer. Two cold blue eyes stared at Shillong angrily. Lamb! The whale-like monster neighed, and the sound was unusually loud. The invisible sound wave spreads, and all the surroundings are cracking inch by inch except for the crust below. The soil turns into marl, and the kyanite turns into blue powder. The transmission of this sound wave was almost abnormal, but within a few dozen breaths of time, it spanned a distance of nearly 1,000 kilometers and spread to Shillong. Ong ong ong, a huge force roared on Zero, and he felt his body was bombarded by an incomparable huge force in all directions. This power far exceeds the damage done to him by any enemy he has encountered before. The power may exceed tens of billions of tons. It was just a bombardment that caused Shillong's body to agitate, and a little blood flowed out of the gaps in the scale armor. Fuck. What kind of monster is this? It is so much bigger than him. In one blow, he suffered a little injury. Shillong's brain turned quickly, combining the classics he had read and the knowledge of Professor Kama. Found that the opponent coincides with the characteristics of certain star beasts. Feed on the nucleus of the planet, wandering in the universe, between the stars and the endless planes. The strength of the star beast is comparable to that of the legendary dragon species, and in some places it is even beyond, and the adult is almost comparable to the gods. The degree of cherishment is hardly under the gods. Shillong, who had only traveled through a few worlds, encountered this kind of monster. I have to say, I won the jackpot. After discovering that the sound wave did not disintegrate Shillong, a trace of surprise and anger flashed in the eyes of the star beast giant whale below, and his long tail waved. Actually swam directly towards Shillong. Its speed doesn't seem to be fast, slowly and slowly, but because of its size, it still reaches a level of 10 to 20 times the speed of sound per second, which is not much worse than Shillong. I feel that the protagonist's speed had some problems before, so I reset it here. In the Earth environment, the speed is above 20 times the speed of sound. Damn. Zero cursed in his heart, but he didn't turn around immediately and ran away. Instead, stay in midair to accumulate energy. The scales on his chest split in an instant, and the red golden light finally bloomed again after many years of absence. This time the light shines to the extreme, is much brighter than before. The entire depth, the dark pits are illuminated by the red golden light, as bright as day. The star beast below has its huge eyes slightly narrowed, and its speed of cruising has not slowed down at all. For this change, it has no fear at all, until Shillong sprayed a huge red golden light ball from his mouth and landed on the cruising star beast. It feels a little bad, but with its body, it can't make an escape at all. Rumbling, endless bursts of light and heat. This light is brighter than the sun and hotter than the sun, accompanied by a roar. The terrifying fireball swallowed the whole body of the star beast whale. Low! A scream rang out, actually suppressing the roar of the explosion. The shock wave broke out, madly impacting the surrounding potholes, and the whole pothole was constantly roaring and collapsing. At the same time, a few minutes ago, a spaceship hundreds of kilometers away. This original Green Star spacecraft has long been occupied by the demonized man. The original Green Star people were killed by a few people, and most of them all surrendered. This is entirely due to the persuasion of the previous Green Stars, including the original leader, Malus. This guy also surrendered. After learning that the Dragon Empire is a different dimensional empire, and there is no need to return to the Green Star to die after surrendering, Malus descended faster than anyone else. At this time, their surrendered combatants, as well as some demonized people, are guarding the spaceship outside. They are guarding against the monsters on this planet. But compared with the previous cautious defensive, the Green Star who has surrendered seems to have been much bolder. Some of them are idly looking around, and some are silently thinking about their future. The demonized people, although they look hideous, but after surrendering, they are indeed good to them. With such a group of people on duty, even if the monster comes again, there is no need to be afraid. They should be truly safe. But at this moment, because there are no mountains or buildings, they can even see hundreds of kilometers away. The originally clear sky suddenly became densely covered with dark clouds, with blue electric lights shining in it. 2 or 5 cubs were a little curious and said, "It turns out that there will be cloudy days here on Pluto. Is it going to rain there? Is it thundering? What's so strange about this? Isn't it the greatest miracle that we can walk and breathe here freely? This planet is so similar to the Green Star. There is a human being next to it." Everyone just quietly admired the sudden changes in the unchanging scene. Rumbling, the whole ground shook at this moment, like an earthquake. An earthquake happened again. We stay here. There is no danger, right? A young boy looked at the vibrating spaceship behind him, worried. After all, he was a newcomer to Pluto. The whole planet was still too strange to them. "Don't worry. I have the ability to think. Even if the ground is cracked, I can ensure your safety," a demonized person said indifferently. Thank you." Woozy smiled awkwardly and said. Part 2. Rumbling, the earthquake lasted for more than 10 seconds, and when it disappeared immediately, it became even more intense. The spaceship behind him swayed even more, forcing several demonized people with the ability to read to freeze the spaceship. Soon, one wave has not settled, another wave has risen. That distant place of lightning and thunder unexpectedly lit up an extremely dazzling red-gold light, as if to dispel all darkness. Then, a painful roar came from the distant land of red-gold light. Lamb! Everyone just heard it, and they felt a tremor from the soul. What's going on? The voice of a young boy trembling a little. What kind of monster sound is this? Is it too scary? The ordinary beasts that were stalked before the Green Star have already become such a terrifying monster? The roar can be spread so far. If the distance is closer, I feel that it can make me yell to death. The master of this call is indeed powerful. The demonized person beside him nodded solemnly. But don't worry about it. With your majesty, no matter what monsters are, you can't turn the waves. Your majesty is absolutely invincible. I don't want everyone to continue talking. After the roar, a red gold streamer suddenly burst out from the place where the red gold light had just erupted and went straight into the sky. Immediately after the Qijin ray, a huge monster that could be seen clearly even if separated by a few hundred kilometers also appeared in everyone's field of vision, biting tightly behind Qijin Liuguang. My god, that is. What kind of monster? Am I dazzled? A Green Star 25 boy wiped his eyes, wondering if there was a hallucination before his eyes. One of them should be your majesty, the dragon god. And what kind of monster is the other? How do you chase your majesty behind? A sharp-eyed demonized man smashed his mouth, and also felt whether his eyes were a problem. Your majesty can't beat that monster, right? The demonized people shook their heads when they thought of this. Impossible. Your majesty is invincible. Being big doesn't mean being strong. Lamb! The whale-like monster roared again. Terrible sound waves swept everything. Everyone saw the dim black clouds in the distant sky swept away. Hundreds of kilometers of space was trembling strangely, and a lot of gray powder floated on the ground. These are all crushed dirt. With the violent sound waves, it turns into dust flying in the sky, obscuring everyone's vision. In just a few breaths, flying ash swept in front of them with strange sound waves. The spacecraft kept shaking, and the entire surface was flashing randomly. The demonized man wanted to resist, but after a while, the spiritual protection was shattered. Several ordinary people were directly bled to death by the shock of 7 holes. Are those demonized people in transcendence, all of whom suffered serious injuries, with blood hanging on the corners of their mouths, lying weakly on the ground. Why is it like this? Obviously so far away. Actually, so many people, muttered a green star extraordinary person. I really can't believe that whale-like monster, with a roar hundreds of kilometers away, killed most of them. No, I didn't expect. Surrendered. We actually still have to die. Maybe, it's the betrayer. Let's end. Another green star supernatural person smiled bitterly. Ahem. The demonized person next to him coughed twice, spit out a mouthful of blood and said, What's so terrible about death? Your Majesty will revive us soon, and those who believe in your Majesty will have eternal life. We are immortal. Resurrection? Green Star's Transcendent was surprised. Do you even do this kind of thing? Hee. Of course, your Majesty is a god. A true god. The demonized man said enthusiastically. Although this monster fighting your Majesty is powerful, but the final victory must belong to your Majesty. In fact, these people didn't know that if it weren't for the star beast controlling the attack direction of the sound wave, it concentrated most of its energy to Shillong directly above. If it is an indiscriminate attack, at the moment when the sound wave is approaching, everyone here, whether it is a demonized person or an ordinary person, or a spaceship, it will disintegrate in an instant. Just when everyone was talking, a red golden light appeared in the distant sky. But this time, it was much stronger than the previous eruption from the ground. Just one glance caused their eyes to be hit hard, and tears couldn't stop flowing down. In the end, a terrifying shock wave hit. Everyone was lifted hundreds of meters away and died on the spot. Even the spaceship had no resistance. After being overturned, it roared and dragged a ditch on the ground. After 2 aftermath attacks, the humans have lost a living. Poor mortals, they don't even have the qualifications to be a melon eater. This is already the sad story that Shillong didn't know how many times he killed himself in the aftermath of the battle. Hundreds of kilometers away, Shillong's nuclear-calmed breath hit the opponent twice in a row. But the results are not quite satisfactory. This is the nuclear calm that has strengthened the power of the flame. The high temperature of hundreds of millions can last for a second or two. If it breaks out on the ground, it can definitely blow up a terrorist attack that is more than 10 kilometers deep. But it is such a terrible breath for the star beast, except for the gray and blue body of the other party to become gray and brown. There was some blue blood flowing out of his body, but it didn't help much. The defensive ability of this monster is also terrifying to the extreme. Also, the recovery ability is not bad. The wounds that leaked blood will heal in a few seconds. The tentative attacks on both sides didn't treat the other side but killed Shillong's men hundreds of kilometers away. This made Shillong a little surprised and embarrassed. This is so special. Why these guys are always killed by his aftermath? There are those ordinary people who are directly torn apart by the aftermath. Can't even resurrect. But there are still some people who can still be saved, and Shillong doesn't dare to continue the battle with the stars on this planet, so as not to destroy all of them before destroying the opponent. This is not in line with my dragon design. He sprinted towards the starry sky of the universe at more than 20 times the speed of sound. The star beast that had been bombarded with 2 nuclear explosions by Shillong was already thunderous. It is the overlord of the universe. Although he is not very old now, only tens of thousands of years old, he is still a star beast baby. But it has never suffered such a loss. There has never been any creature that can cause such damage to it. Make it hurt. Let it bleed. But now, it is injured. Although it is insignificant, it still makes it angry. 2 giant beasts rushed in quickly. Outside the planet, there are many crushed meteorites. The 2 giant beasts finally fought again. Zero was not afraid of the star beast that was bigger than it, turned around and slammed into it. Star Beast seemed to be a little surprised that this little guy actually dared to face it hard, flicking his tail fiercely, speeding up and hitting it. In the cosmic starry sky, the flight speed of both have been doubled. Hit the opponent at 40 or 50 times the speed of sound. A silent terror impact erupted. A terrifying shock wave burst from it. All the rubbles and asteroids within a radius of thousands of kilometers burst open. The 2 giant beasts flew directly across dozens of kilometers. There was a sharp pain in his body, and his soul was shaking violently, and he stayed in place for a long time. Shillong returned to normal. After a while, the star beast's eyes regained his vigilance, and his only fierce eyes became vigilant. It is swimming, opening its mouth. The blue light began to converge. Seeing this, Zero opened his huge mouth, and the golden light began to converge. Part 3. The blue light in the mouth of the star beast illuminates almost everything within thousands of kilometers. This is the power of the original star core possessed by the star beast after it has absorbed the star core. The powerful star beast can even hit the star with this trick. The light beam is getting more and more concentrated. The blue light in the center of made people unable to look directly at it. Until then, the star beast whale suddenly ejected the blue beam of light in its mouth. Zero was also at the same time, spouting a red golden light beam from his mouth. This is a pure flame, condensed with infinite flame energy. The temperature is definitely over 10 million degrees. The void around the beam was crazily distorted. This is Shillong's new trick with the power of faith, which can be used for continuous output. However, there is a lot of faith consumed every second, and fortunately Shillong's faith power is still sufficient. Two terrifying rays shot straight at each other. The red gold and the azure blue brilliance collided together, like a supernova explosion, sparking incredible sparks. The terrible impact wiped out everything within tens of thousands of kilometers around. This kind of light, for people on the green star hundreds of millions of kilometers away, even overwhelms the sun. All the people wandering the streets were surprised to find that a huge light source appeared in the starry sky of the universe. It directly suppresses the demeanor that should belong to the sun. The dazzling makes people have to close their eyes immediately. While in a certain observation room, in a room full of instruments, there are soldiers in green clothes sitting here, and the big screen in front of them is showing the vision of the cosmic starry sky just exploding. What is going on? The abnormal changes from the sky and the sun? A middle-aged man looked at the flashing light on the screen, pondered for a moment, then said, "Use the eyes of God to directly observe the abnormal changes there."
Yes.
One person next to him responded. The pictures on the entire big screen change rapidly, constantly zooming in on the flashing spot. This kind of enlarged pixels is very scary. The image of the starry sky, which was originally more than 100 million kilometers away, began to zoom in and get closer. Soon, they saw everything there. A monster like a mythical dragon is fighting a monster like a huge whale in the starry sky. Their destructive power is beyond all human imagination. Every time the giant whale roars, it can shatter the rubble within hundreds of kilometers and disintegrate the asteroid. And the dragon spit out red golden light. After hitting the giant whale, it will burst out a red golden ball of light that is as dazzling as the sun. The entire void is twisting. The battle between two monsters, like an ancient myth, descends on the stars of the universe. What is this? Is it true that those ancient myths are true? Whether it is the world or human beings, are they all created by God? Which two gods are these two? Someone muttered to himself while watching the scene in front of him. I think I'm dreaming. Well, maybe I played with Mary too late last night. Another person muttered to himself and pinched his arm severely, then let out a scream. Oh, it hurts. Our God's eye system will not be hacked? Are they playing the latest movie promos here? What will the movie name be? Mythical Monster Battle? Destruction Dragon versus World Destruction Whale? I think this movie looks pretty good. Very well made. Look at this special effect. Wow, it's too realistic. The other person exclaimed, but someone around him immediately cursed, "Fool! What are you talking about? How could someone invade the eye of God? This is all true." As this sentence fell, everyone in the room was silent. For a long time, one person trembled. These two monsters won't come to Green Star? Impossible? How could it come? What are you talking nonsense? We Green Star humans Wuxia World online have been living on Green Star for tens of thousands of years. Aren't they all alright? Ha ha ha. One person heard what the previous person said. His complexion suddenly changed, and he said in a panic. Then, I said, what if? If it comes to Green Star, can we resist it? Resist? Of course it can. Our Green Star's technology was not based on the sun decades ago, and simulated the legendary supreme weapon, the flare bomb. Yes, there is this kind of weapon. We will not lose to these two monsters. A group of people are talking verbally, but they are a little emboldened no matter how they listen. One of them had not spoken before. The young man with eyes pushed the glasses on the bridge of his nose and couldn't help but speak. Be sober. Even our supreme weapon can't compare with the energy burst out by those two monsters. And that giant dragon. Don't you think that the light ball ejected from its mouth is very similar to our flare bomb? It is even more powerful than flare bombs. This level of power, if it falls on the Green Star, I'm sure it's enough to wipe out several cities in an instant. Chapter 337. How is this possible? Ami, are you kidding me? That giant dragon. How could it be so powerful? Just as this person's voice fell, the red golden ball of light from the dragon's mouth spouted again. But this time, because of the distance and the flexibility of whale-like monsters in the universe, they actually avoided it. Everyone observed through other screens and found that the light ball fell straight on an asteroid thousands of kilometers behind the whale monster. This planet is said to be small and not too small, at least more than 10 kilometers in diameter. If a planet of this level falls into a green star, it can even wipe out half of the entire green star. And the flare bullet, the strongest weapon of mankind, cannot smash it. Unless all the flare bombs are detonated in a concentrated manner, it is possible to blow up. But it is a planet of this level, After the small red golden light ball exploded, it disappeared instantly and was completely evaporated, as if it didn't exist in the universe. The people in the whole room were sweating coldly. This is a meteorite with a diameter of tens of kilometers, was eliminated so easily. If it broke out on the green star, it might be exactly what Ami said. As long as everyone thinks about it, they can feel the goosebumps all over their body. The two monsters are constantly fighting. Everything in the starry sky was shattered in the aftermath. Everyone watched the two monsters fighting for several days with horror. Near the sky Pluto, everything within a radius of tens of millions of kilometers has been completely emptied, and until this time, the two monsters stopped. Shillong and the star beast giant whale looked at each other in the silent starry sky. There are no gravel or asteroids around the two monsters. They were each silent. While relaxing the body, it continuously inhales various radiations in the starry sky, turbulence, and inhales the body into the energy needed. But at this time, after several days of fierce fighting, it has reached the edge of exhaustion. The giant whale glared at a pair of dead fish eyes and screamed softly. A ripple of thoughts representing the opponents will quickly spread from the void to Siro's ear. Let him understand what it meant to express. Which race are you from? Why do you want my food? There are obviously other planets around, although the star core may not be as delicious as mine. After fighting for several days, the giant whale finally communicated with Shillong. Was originally a star beast. In their thinking, there was basically no concept of talking or being soft. Because they are too strong, anyone who dares to provoke them can be killed with just one roar. Communication is the least necessary. But at this moment, facing a strength that is no less than it, the star beast whale has to pick up a new star beast skill that may not be used in its entire life. Negotiation. To be honest, Shillong didn't want to fight shortly after the start of the fight, and found that there was no way to win the opponent quickly. But the giant whale opposite was like a mad dog, biting him. Didn't mean to communicate at all, which made him think that the other party was mentally retarded. At this time, the other party took the initiative to talk, which made him a little surprised. Especially what the other party said. Grab food? I don't feed on the nucleus of stars, so I can eat your ass? I am not a creature that feeds on star cores, so why would I rush to eat with you? He said directly. You are in my territory, unscrupulously releasing your breath. Aren't you provoking me? The other party replied. There was some anger in the voice. Siro was taken aback, and then immediately remembered the cause and effect and said, I just came along the kyanite and met two idiots who didn't have long eyes, so I took a lesson. After receiving the information, Star Beast thought for a while, and then replied, Kyanite? That should be the crystal of energy leaked when I swallowed the star core. But you said that a creature provoked you? I don't remember that there are any creatures on my planet. You can't lie to me. Question mark. Xylem was taken aback again, but soon he understood why the opponent reacted. This guy probably entered the bottom shell of this planet a long time ago and began to swallow the nucleus. It may be decades, hundreds, or even thousands of years ago, or tens of thousands of years ago. Naturally, I don't understand the creatures that have only been stocked on the Pluto in recent years. He explained a little bit. The star beast whale's eyes narrowed slightly, and he wagged his tail and turned around to look at the sky and Pluto carefully. After a long time, he said, actually, there are other creatures. As a star beast, although its vision is not as abnormal as Shillong, it is not bad. It is not too far from the sky and Pluto. It is enough to carefully observe the general situation on the planet. But immediately, it turned back and said, but this is not an excuse for you to invade my territory. This planet is mine. You must leave here immediately. Yes. Huh. Star Beast opened slightly, as if he didn't expect Shillong to talk so easily. It nodded and said nothing, quickly turned and returned, wanting to continue eating. But immediately, it turned its head back and looked at Siro, who was right behind its ass, and said, You guy, why are you following me? Are you really hitting my star core's attention? As the star beast whale spoke, the blue in his eyes became thicker, and he seemed to want to do it again. Don't get me wrong, my men are still on that planet. Even if you drive me away, at least let me take my men away. Man? The star beast whale looked at the few lives on the planet in doubt. You guy, it's really strange. You are as strong as me, but you care about those weak lives. The existence of this kind of life is basically meaningless, weak, and fragile. As long as we breathe out gently, we can kill them. No matter how weak creatures are, as long as they exist, there is a moment to show their value. Unable to understand, Star Beast Whale murmured, and then ignored Shillong, and quickly moved towards the pit of Sky Pluto, before entering the pit to absorb the star core again. The Star Beast Whale has been floating above the pit, staring at Shillong with a pair of eyes. Watched him resurrect the group of weak ants, then opened the portal and disappeared together. The Star Beast Whale felt relieved, and went back into the pit. Xylem returned to the First Alliance star world to be conquered, and this can be regarded as his base camp. There are many people radiating inside, and Xylem took the kyanite he had just received and let the brain demon distribute it. This thing is a good thing. Shillong asked the researchers to study it. By the way, it is used to improve the strength of his subordinates and make plans for the future. Then he began to think about one thing. The star beast can swallow the star core to increase its strength, and the star core contains extremely terrifying energy. The kyanite formed by the leak has the mighty power to greatly enhance human strength. What benefits can the star beasts gain by devouring the star core itself? Shillong felt that maybe he could try it. After all, before devouring the devil, the magic pond, it brought him a lot of benefits. Because of this previous history, Shillong felt that he had to try other delicacies. He lifted his head and stared straight at the star, emitting endless light and heat in the starry sky. As a plutonium dragon, he can release the nucleus to calm his breath, and he has a strong gravitational force. He feels that he is inseparably connected with perseverance. Maybe you can try it? Shillong had this idea. In fact, Shillong has always liked the sun, and once thought of going around the stars, but in the end he extinguished the thought. Want to ask why? Of course it is too far. Shillong is on the planet, every distance from the star. The nearest is more than 100 million kilometers. 100 million kilometers. What concept? Part 2. Even if Echelon enters the starry sky of the universe, the speed can reach more than 40 times the speed of sound. Reach the level of more than 10,000 meters per second. It takes about 890 days to fly nonstop. When it was weaker before, it took several times longer. How did this make Shillong suffer? This is like letting a person run for more than 80 days in a row. Although Shillong's physical fitness is superb, and his resilience is strong enough. But after all, it is limited. Flying at full strength for 40 to 50 days, he will also be tired. Of course, physical fatigue is not the most important thing. The most important thing is heart fatigue. In the lonely and quiet universe, I quit and kept flying for more than 80 days. Shillong felt that he might go crazy. Because of this, he was absolutely unwilling before. But now that he saw the star beast whale, Shillong felt that he still had to try it. What if it works? That star is a great resource. Just do it. Shillong said nothing, and once again returned to the Pluto, the planet that was the closest to the Perseverance in the galaxy. Just returned to Sky Pluto, his breath was caught by the star beast whale that had not penetrated into the Earth's crust. The star beast whale was furious, and it felt like it had been tricked by the before. I did not start eating. You come again? It rushed out of the pit angrily, and its huge blue eyes scanned where the breath came, only to find that the who awakened it was rushing towards the sky. Seems to be leaving this planet. The fierce eyes of the star beast whale were only slightly calm, but immediately, seeing the other's flight direction, its eyes became fierce again. This is going to devour that yellow planet? That is the best planet besides this one under me. Thing. Kind of picky eaters. The star beast whale looked at the entire star system again, except for the permanent core that it could not swallow. There are only 6 large planets in total. 3 of them are not long-lived and taste very bad. In addition, this one under his body can still be swallowed for 100 years. The star core will deteriorate due to the passing of energy, and he was planning to continue to swallow the yellow planet. I can only swallow that one. The star beast whale's gaze couldn't help but fall onto the green planet. Although there are many small bugs on it, it might be a little troublesome to swallow it. But it's easier than traveling long distances to other galaxies, isn't it? Be careful. The body of the star beast whale slowly sinks. The long starry sky flight is undoubtedly extremely boring. Don't ask why Shillong didn't fly for a while, then record the coordinates, return to other planes, and do some other things before returning. That's all because of the starry sky in the universe. The coordinates change greatly, the gravitation of various planets, and the turbulence of the starry sky, and the wandering of gravel asteroids make the coordinate transformation of the universe starry sky too large. Because of this, Shillong flew to a stop, and it took nearly a year and a half to reach the sun. Just touched the sun. The fiery high temperature and terrifying radiation made Shillong take a deep breath comfortably. The heat rushed into his body, making him almost groan. As expected, my plutonium clan is related to stars. He quickly penetrated into the gaseous planet of the sun and flew towards the core. The deeper, the higher the temperature, and the more comfortable he feels. Fly all the way to the radiation zone. Here is the world of light and heat. The temperature is above 10 million degrees. This kind of continuity, the ubiquitous high temperature, is enough to melt everything in the world. Even the previous star beast whales can resist Shillong's nuclear respite, but it can't survive in the sun too long. The radiation here is equally terrifying, and it can cause a creature's genes to collapse and die in an instant. But these two great horrors, as far as plutonium Shillong is concerned, they are both great tonic. He even opened his mouth, swallowing the surrounding hot gas, and the radiant light was absorbed into his body as instinctively. This feeling, this kind of comfort, Shillong can no longer describe in words. At the same time, the upper limit of energy in the body has also increased a little. As expected, A gleam of excitement flashed in Shillong's eyes, and their plutonium dragon family was indeed similar to star beasts and could swallow stellar matter. Shillong is not far from the star core at this time, and the pressure at this time is also terribly high, especially the atmospheric pressure around 300 billion times the star core. What is this concept? 1 atmosphere pressure, equivalent to a square meter object, put 10 tons of weight. Isn't that 300 billion 3 trillion tons? This kind of intensity, even if Shillong uses gravity to offset it, and the body's own resistance, it is impossible to resist. Even if the pressure of this star is different from that of the solar nucleus passing through the former blue star Wuxia-world.online, it will not be too big. Unable to resist the pressure, he could only watch the star core silently crying, and began to frantically devour the heat and radiation in the radiation belt. His body energy is quickly consumed when resisting pressure, but swallowing the surrounding energy allows his energy to recover quickly, even further. His state at this time is somewhat similar to the state of ordinary humans exercising. This is a bit novel for Shillong. After all, there was no high-energy celestial body like the sun before, and his exercise effect was really bad. It's not bad to be able to re-experience the human exercise now. Time is slowly passing by. This kind of exercise is extremely boring, but the effect is very good. He found that he has actually become stronger. Although the physical growth is not too obvious, it may only grow faster than normal. But he clearly felt that his body density, flame power, and gravity were increasing. This is a holy place for cultivation. At the beginning, Shillong exercised vigorously, but after half a year, he kind of wants to give up. Chapter 338. As an ordinary person of the former Blue Star, now Plutonium is an ordinary person. He has not been a soldier, is not a social elite, and does not have much patience to continue to do something. As a Plutonium dragon, everything was too simple. There was nothing he needed to continue and do seriously. Life has also changed from normal difficulty to super simple mode. Is these two life trajectories? His patience is actually not enough. Even after being a dragon, this patience is instinctively strengthened. At this time, half a year past also made Shillong feel extremely boring. He thought about giving up, but if he gave up, the starry sky tour he spent a year and a half before would be wasted. After all, there is no guarantee of the precise location of the portal in the universe. Various cosmic turbulence and radiation will greatly interfere with the establishment of the portal, not to mention the stars. In addition to the flame element, hydrogen, helium, and other elements composed of stars. As for the other elements that make up the portal, that can't move inside the star at all. Shillong felt that he was now challenging the limit of loneliness. At first, he was a little unbearable, but then he thought of an interesting thing to distract his boredom. That is to peep into the life of the green star. Even if they are hundreds of millions of kilometers apart, as long as he observes carefully, he can still see everything on the green star. This is an effective way to resolve loneliness. Humans like ants staged interesting scenes of life games for him. He silently watched all human happiness, anger, sorrow, joy, and sorrow. These are like real romance dramas, commercial war dramas, combat dramas, documentaries, and of course some indescribable small plots. Because of these, he silently persisted. 10 years, 20 years, 50 years. 100 years. 100 years have passed. On the heavenly Pluto near the sun, the originally gray land has become gray. Compared to 100 years ago, there have been terrible cracks in the entire land. Among these cracks, gray-brown rocks and gas are thrown at dozens of times the speed of sound from time to time. The entire planet, the creatures originally brought by the green star, have all been extinct. From the original possible planet where humans could survive, it became impossible. The environment has been drastically changed. A huge starry sky whale with a body length of more than 2 kilometers slowly rose from the deep black pit in the center of the planet. Its huge eyes first looked at the yellow planet at the other end of the starry sky. Its eyes did not give it the ultra-long distance vision like Shillong. Also couldn't see far away, everything on the yellow planet. It's just that it clearly remembers that 100 years ago, the guy who wanted to grab its food went to the yellow planet. Its food preparation is gone. The starry sky whale has to turn around and look towards the distant green planet, then wagged his tail towards the green star. The speed of the starry whale in the universe has reached nearly 40 times the speed of sound. But despite this, it takes about a year to reach a green star. Different from Shillong, it feels like a half-hearted super life tormented along the way. Although the star whale is still young, it is also used to loneliness. It's slowly headed towards the target. At the same time, green star, the base of the Eye of God system. After 100 years of development, the Eye of God system has long been perfected. Here is a huge room. The surrounding walls are full of surveillance videos from all directions of the starry sky. This is a surveillance picture of the entire star system. In these pictures, the universe is quiet, and strange. And in these pictures, a strange picture suddenly appeared. A blue and gray whale suddenly appeared in a certain picture. This immediately aroused the alarm of an observer. Attention everyone! Screen 687 is abnormal. Screen 687 is abnormal. A monster appeared near the sky Pluto. Huh. The other observers all turned to look at screen 687, then exclaimed, "This, unbelievable. There are such creatures in the stars of the universe?" An operator immediately projected the contents of screen 687 onto the big screen. Everyone couldn't help but exclaimed, "Oh my God. It turns out that there are alien monsters in the stars of the universe. What is this? How come it looks like a whale? This whale is so big. It's bigger than some meteorites. Oh my God. This is simply a miracle of life in the universe. This is the greatest discovery of this century. Hurry up. Go and inform the sir. Let them come and see this monster. We alone are not enough to make decisions about the current situation." In the exclamation of everyone, an observer left the room immediately and soon came to the room with a few middle-aged and elderly men wearing high-grade green military uniforms. There is no doubt that this is the senior officer of the Eye of God base. As soon as these people entered the room, they stared at the huge star whale. Looking at the other party's huge body and leisurely wandering figure, he couldn't help but exclaim, some admired, some curious. But one of the oldest of them frowned. He glanced at several other senior officials and said, "You don't feel that this monster is a bit familiar?" Familiar? Several officials looked at each other, then frowned slightly. "It seems I do have a little impression, but I can't remember it anymore." "How many of you?" The elder shook his head helplessly when he heard the words, and then said, "M13 file, Dragon and Star Whale. Have you forgotten the files you have seen before?" Someone replied, and immediately remembered something, and immediately, the sweat on his forehead couldn't stop flowing down. They feel cold all over. M13 is a secret archive that has been preserved 100 years ago. Only some of the super senior officials of Green Star and the high-level officials of the Eye of God can know. Our ancestors 100 years ago have already seen these two extraordinary creatures, like myths, through the eyes of God at that time. Experts have calculated the strength of these two monsters. S answer is that humans cannot match it at all. It is so powerful, even if you use the word God to describe it, it is not an exaggeration. As long as it comes, mankind will surely welcome destruction. No accidents. Just when everyone was anxious about this, for fear that they came to the Green Star to secretly monitor the world's destruction, they discovered that a monster had entered the sky Pluto, and the other had entered the sun, and no longer appeared. Several years have passed, and these two monsters are also very stable. Although they are still in this galaxy, terror still covers the whole world. But human beings are a forgetful and greedy race, and many people gradually forget these two horrible monsters selectively. Greed broke out at this moment, because Green Star experts infer that this mythical monster may have evolved from the kyanite of Pluto, because the two monsters both appeared from the sky and the stars and hit the stars of the universe. Experts believe that these two monsters may be nothing more than small animals that were previously stocked on Pluto. In just a few years, from a small animal to a behemoth, how can it not cause human greed? Its focus executives have even greater desire for kyanite. Unexpectedly risked defending and awakened the threat of the monster thrown on the sky. Sent a lot of power to the sky Pluto to continue searching for kyanite. But things backfired. When these people arrived, the entire sky Pluto couldn't find the kyanite that would give mankind's extraordinary power. The senior executives also accepted the reality after a short pause. The whole society slowly passed by over time. 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years have never seen those two monsters again. When the high level of humanity has forgotten this matter 100 years ago, that mythical monster appeared again. They have awakened human beings' awareness of it. And fear. Wait, this monster, where is its current behavior? Part 2. A middle-aged official couldn't help asking. As the officials asked questions, the screen images in front of them quickly rotated and switched, after row-by-row data analysis and behavior simulation. At last an examiner took a deep breath and said with a heavy voice, 95% chance, it's our Green Star. What can I do? If this kind of monster comes to Green Star, with our current technology, is it possible to resist it? A middle-aged official was a little flustered and couldn't help asking the old man at the beginning. It is impossible to resist. The old man closed his eyes and sighed. Although they have made a lot of progress in science and technology compared to 100 years ago, the most powerful weapon is still the flare bomb and the upgrading of weapons. It is only those light weapons that have become stronger, as well as some conventional technology and life technology. Technology is very easy except for the initial development. After a little mastery of the most basic technology, subsequent progress will not be too easy. It is like a martial arts master in a martial arts novel. It is easy to get started, but difficult to advance. It's like the blue star where Shillong is, the strongest nuclear weapon, it was a product of the early 1950s. In 2019, when Shillong crossed, it spanned 6 to 70 years. Hundreds of countries above the blue star, brightly and secretly, with constant friction, each made their own efforts to climb technology in the dark. But even so, the strongest weapon is still nuclear weapons, which has never changed. Other light weapons, heavy weapons are constantly upgraded. Counting down these 6 to 70 years, the most advanced technology is the life-side technology. In Shillong's view, this is a bottleneck that technology has entered. Green Star is naturally the same, although technology far exceeds Blue Star. But their strongest weapon is still flare bullets. Compared with 100 years ago, only the equivalent has increased. From the amount that could clean all the creatures of Green Star once, it has increased to the amount enough to clean twice. There is no difference other than that. Then what do we do? What do humans do? The middle-aged officer inhaled again, and the whole person was a little bad. The elderly officials did not reply, but instead asked the observers, how long will this monster, codenamed Star Whale, reach Green Star? Back to the chief. According to computer data analysis, there is still 1 year left. The observer replied, has been listening to the conversation of several officials, making the hearts of several observers extremely heavy. I see. You continue to pay attention to this giant whale in the starry sky. If there is any change, contact me immediately. Also, what I heard just now, don't tell anyone. As Green Star fighters, you should be able to keep this secret, right? The old official finally said. We understand. Sir, several observers responded. The old officer sighed silently and finally said to the other officials, let's go. Tell this to the top and see what they do. The sky is falling, and the tall man is on his own. Then, several officials left. Green Star's senior management is also working hard for the approaching crisis in the sky. They even kept sending out some signals to communicate with this monster, but it didn't work. The monster did not respond. Its goal and course of action have never changed. This also allows all the senior leaders of Green Star to know that this time the monster is coming. 1 year later, Green Star, Haching. The prosperous city with 10 million inhabitants was already empty by this time. The whole city is extremely silent, empty like a ghost, is extremely inconsistent with everything in its prosperity. At this time, the entire Green Star and all humans in other cities are staying in their homes, watching the pictures on TV. Everything about Haijo is playing there. Everyone already knew the truth half a year ago. The terrifying monster born in the Shanghai universe is about to descend on Green Star, Pingqing. The big event related to the future of mankind is about to unfold. Will mankind survive this crisis and move on, or will it perish in the hands of monsters? The picture on the TV is aimed at the sky, where a whale-like monster is slowly coming towards the Green Star. Soon, it broke through the atmosphere, seemingly slow, but in fact quickly came to the top of Pingqing. The body that could not be clearly recognized before became magnificent because of the ground construction. The villa is in contrast to it, but like an ant nest, dozens of high-rise buildings in front of it are like slopes of soil. When the starry sky giant whale approached the ground, everyone saw it open its huge mouth. With a cry, a sound wave visible to the naked eye burst out. The original prosperous Pingqing, all the buildings, whether they were tall buildings, villas, shops, towers, and floor tiles, began to collapse as like burning fly ash, completely disintegrated. Gone with the wind. This is a very strange method of attack, but it takes a few breaths. All the audience can only see that in the picture taken from space, everything representing Haching disappears in smoke. More than that, several cities around Pingqing were all implicated and more than half damaged. Fortunately, in these surrounding cities, all the people inside have been evacuated, and there have been no casualties. But obviously, the Green Star still underestimated the lethality of this giant star whale. Even if there are two cities separated, the terrible attack has come hundreds of kilometers away, in the farther city. After hundreds of kilometers, the attack power like sound waves has already weakened to the extreme. It can't disintegrate everything that is affected in an instant, but it is enough to cause indelible trauma to the entire city. Those human beings who think they are safe, when watching TV, find that their city has been affected, they can't make any response. Do you like this site? Donate here. Chapter 339. Terrifying and strange waves swept across their bodies. There was internal bleeding in their bodies, rupture of their organs, and other terrible phenomena. The house was shaking, and the TV, computer, and other electrical appliances exploded directly. The human being next to the TV and computer was directly engulfed by the fire. With this one blow, even if the human beings have been prepared for a long time, it still suffered heavy losses, with more than tens of millions of casualties. This terrible reality, whether it's ordinary people in front of the TV or the top of the Green Star, everyone has cold hands and feet. Although I tried my best to overestimate this monster, I didn't expect the terrifying degree of this monster to be far beyond their imagination. This kind of monster, can we really fight? Can we really protect our home? Can our strongest weapon destroy this monster? Everyone has no doubts. The picture cuts back to pinching again. The ground under the monster was also disintegrating, and a huge hole was blasted out. The whale-like monster slowly penetrated into it, and after a while, another roar broke out. The entire radius of hundreds of kilometers is shaking. The pothole is being enlarged. What is this monster doing? What is its purpose? This question surfaced in everyone's mind. At the same time, there was a hint of joy in their hearts. This monster does not seem to come for the purpose of destroying humans. It has been sinking to the ground. As long as we don't care about it, does it mean that the Green Star destruction crisis has passed? Everyone watched the TV and thought of the monster that seemed to be digging pits, constantly roaring. Waited until the monster digs into the crust, watching the monster lying on the crust and biting his big mouth against the crust, and finally discovered the abnormality. This monster, devouring the crust. The crust is the life of the entire Green Star. If there is a difference, I am afraid that the entire Green Star human being will die without a place to be buried. All human beings suddenly escaped from the joy of escaping from the dead and entered the of despair. He must be stopped. An underground base, in the highest council of Focus. The highest power of Green Star gathered here. There are 102 people. The one who spoke just now was an old man who was about 70 years old and had white temples. He was wearing a dark green military uniform. Is Glenn, the supreme leader of the military? Wait, I think we should be watching for one day. Someone objected. Yes, observe for one day. Maybe tomorrow this monster will be gone. But if we observe for one day, what about the crust? What about our Green Star? It should be fine for one day. Look at that monster. It's actually not fast. Everyone was babbling and didn't want to attack at all. Still had fantasy and fluke in his heart. After all, once attacked, it annoyed the monster. The whole mankind is so bad. They could clearly see the attack just now. This kind of attack is even worse than their largest flare bomb. Finally, they chose to wait. Silently looked at the behemoth like a whale. For a whole day, in fact, the crust that this whale gnawed away was not much compared to its body. It was probably just a small pit of 200 to 300 meters. Then the whale monster rested for a few hours, then bite, and didn't mean to leave at all. The high levels of the entire conference room watched the situation silently. According to expert analysis, if this monster keeps gnawing on the Earth's crust, within a few years, our Green Star will change drastically. Earth fission, volcanic eruption, air composition change. The whole world will become no longer suitable for human survival. Human beings have therefore entered the countdown to destruction. On the conference table, a high-level executive said in a low voice, "We really have nothing to do? We can only launch an attack? A decisive battle? No. Then our chance of winning? Based on data from 100 years ago and analysis of the damage caused by the monster yesterday, our chance of defeating the monster is no more than 10%. The possibility of driving away monsters is no more than 30%. Silence was greeted again in the meeting room. Let's leave on the Mirai quickly. A senior officer couldn't help but said, "No." Glenn objected. Retreat without fighting and abandon billions of compatriots? How did you do it? We are not without chance. Just now. Follow my instructions. Immediately drop flare bombs into the pothole. But someone wanted to speak, but Glenn interrupted immediately. Nothing. Just run away without trying. I can't do such a cowardly thing. Glenn shouted. Some people are ashamed, but everyone is not blocking them. Glenn's order was quickly issued. 1,000 kilometers away from the Star Beast whale crater, several fiery red missiles rushed into the sky from the ground, then dragged a long tail flame across a distance of thousands of kilometers and fell into the dark pothole until you hit the monster lying on the crust. In an instant, the missile turned into dark spots, absorbing the surrounding heat frantically, then broke out suddenly. The terrifying red light exploded, and tens of millions of terrifying heat continued to surge in the crust. Lamb! The star beast whale that was hit cried out in pain. This kind of attack reminded it of the monster dragon it faced before. The difference is that the flame temperature of the monster dragon is higher, but fortunately the duration is short. But this is different. Although the temperature is lower, the duration is extremely long. Makes it seem to be in a sea of fire. It felt like it was slightly burned. After roared, he sprang upward. Must be that strange dragon. Is that also eyeing this planet? It wants to my food again? Unforgivable. Unforgivable. The eyes of the starry sky whale turned red all at once. All those who watched the video only saw endless flames surging, and the entire pothole became a sea of flames. Haven't waited for them to celebrate that the flare bombs perfectly hit the monsters. I saw that terrifying monster emerge from the sea of fire. Looking at its body surface, removing some of the flesh and tumbling bloodshot threads, it does not seem to be a serious problem, and the flesh is recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye, and it will not take a few seconds at all. The monster will return to its original state. But its blood-red eyes undoubtedly tell all the green stars. Enraged, with endless anger, the starry sky whale quickly came out of the pit. All those who watched this scene couldn't help but hang up. Then I saw hundreds of flare bombs dragging their long tail wing, suddenly crashing into the pothole. Monsters are too big to dodge. The terrifying fire broke out again. The flame this time is undoubtedly more terrifying. Hundreds of flare bombs erupted in a pit dozens of kilometers from the ground. The entire pothole was completely melted. Everything within a radius of hundreds of kilometers was swept by flames of tens of millions of degrees. The pothole, which was only a few dozen kilometers wide, was instantly opened to hundreds of kilometers, has become a real sinkhole. The inside of the pit is like a flames, surrounded by extremely hot lava and heat waves. The people in front of the TV cheered, and many people in the Supreme Council also smiled. Such a terrifying attack hit. This monster should be dead, right? But the reality is, in this terrifying hell, the giant whale rushed out of the fire again. Its current appearance is indeed a bit miserable. The entire skin has been rolled back. The whole body is hot and red. Black and red smoke is constantly emerging from it. A lot of blue blood is dripping. It seems to be half-cooked. Although it looks terrifying, if you look closely, you will find that the monster's physical wounds are still healing quickly. Everything seems to be in vain. A large part of ordinary people have begun to despair. Part 2. What kind of monster they are facing? Lamb. The starry sky whale roared frantically, and hundreds of flare bombs exploded. This was the heaviest time the starry sky whale had been injured since its birth. Even in the previous battle with Shillong, he didn't actually suffer such severe injuries. After all, they were fighting and fighting, relying on amazing resilience and battery life. Most of the energy in the body is consumed, as well as physical strength, and the cumulative damage is not too scary. But this time is different. If the flare bombs burst out at once, if they burst separately, it is enough to clean the green star twice. Such a terrifying attack, concentrated attacks, made the original flame high temperature of only tens of millions of degrees, directly turned into a continuous explosion of tens of millions, hundreds of millions of degrees. This made the star whale suffer a lot. It took more than 20 seconds to get rid of this kind of damage. The furious star whale roared again after getting out of the trap. A radius of hundreds of kilometers was once again terribly impacted. It scanned the starry sky with red eyes, but did not see the strange dragon at all. Isn't the monster attacking it? Then who is attacking? Is the ant on this planet? Regardless of whether these ants are or not, it seems to be eliminated. The starry sky whale opened its terrifying mouth, and the blue light began to converge. And in the underground base in a distant place, all the senior leaders of its focus are like bereaved concubines. As expected, this monster cannot be defeated by humans at all. Let's run away. The monster, the condensed blue light, appeared in the battle with the dragon 100 years ago. It is a super long-range strike method. If you are unlucky, fall on top of us. We may all be dead. A high-level executive panicked. Don't panic. What you said may be minimal, and we haven't lost yet. We have the last weapon. Spear of God. God's spear? Can that work? The flare bombs all failed. Some people wondered. God's spear and flare bomb are two different attacks, and the strongest flare bomb is a wide area attack. But the spear of God is a purely physical attack. It may bring unexpected surprises to the door. After all, this is the crystallization of wisdom that has been cast by the power of all green stars this year. Near the atmosphere of the green star, there are huge unknown machinery floating there. A sharp metal spear is mounted on every unknown machine. With a click, the spear was mechanically pulled inward, like a crossbow bolt being loaded. An electric arc flashed across the entire machine. After a burst of power, along with the explosion of thunder in the sky, the sharp black spear suddenly shot out. At the same time it was shot, the mechanical table that was originally integrated with it burst instantly. A machine, just to shoot a spear. This spear is like a sharp arrow shot by God, cut through the void, at a speed of more than 7 or 80 times the speed of sound, across thousands of kilometers in an instant. The starry sky whale, which was still accumulating its power, was hit by the spear of God before he could realize what was going on. Its head and body are like a thin needle inserted in it. Screamed in pain instantly. The blue energy in the mouth that has not been gathered is directly thrown out, shot toward the sky, quickly shot into the cosmic sky, and completely detonated after shooting an asteroid, turning into a blue cosmic firework. The Green Star Man once again gave the starry sky whale a huge wound, while at the same time protecting the human who should have died under the blue light. looking at the star beast whale that was so painful that it was screaming because of being inserted by several spears of God. The human beings in front of the TV screamed happily. I have a nail in my forehead. See if you die. Just when everyone was about to watch the monster die in pain and wailing, they found that several pins inserted in the monster's forehead were slowly squeezed out. Yes, a few spears of God that were originally 10 meters long is stuck in this monster, but it is like a small needle stuck in it. Although this kind of small needle inserted into the human forehead can indeed kill humans, it is clear that it is far from lethal when inserted into an incredible monster like the starry sky whale. This kind of injury can only make it painful, hurt, and make it more violent. The joy of all human beings just solidified. The starry sky whale was extremely angry. It hadn't planned to pay attention to the ants here and let them live a few more years. It was already merciful, but I didn't expect these ants to resist it again and again. Give it harm. Unforgivable. Unforgivable. Very furious, it immediately turned around and swam to the west. There is the direction of Ingxing, the most dense place for humans. In front of the TV, those British residents who watched the movement of the whales in the sky, as well as the residents of nearby cities, collapsed instantly. They yelled. Some picked up the phone and asked the NSFOC to destroy the monsters quickly, and some opened the door directly and began to flee. Driving Wuxia World. Online cyclists all have one purpose. Escape from your own city. Escape that monster. If there is no immediate escape, their fate is only one. That's death. The whole city was in chaos. All traffic in various places was blocked, and then one by one abandoned their cars and fled. But these are just useless. With their feet, how can they run over a 2,000-meter-long star whale? It can swim thousands of meters with a flick of its tail. When the terrifying shadow gradually approached Ingxing, the angry, frantic aura of the starry sky whale is crazy and wanton. The heavens and the earth are discolored. The wind is roaring, the clouds are shaking, and the earth is shaking. This is just because the crazy breath of the star whale is venting, and mortals were shocked by this breath, and some passed out directly, and some even had a mental disorder in their brains. Get into madness. Is even scared to death. Where the shadow of the starry sky whale passes, large swaths of humans fall. It is like the ultimate Death Star that brings destruction and despair to mankind. There is no need to launch any attacks at all, just with its own momentum is enough to destroy mankind. Chapter 340. But the furious star whale obviously will not let humans die slowly like this. This is so kind. It opened its huge mouth again, and the terrible strange sound waves spread. Everything turned into fly ash and dissipated. At this moment, those who were already in a coma are lucky to die directly. But those who have lived for dozens or hundreds of kilometers and have not been affected by the aura of the starry sky whale are facing this terrifying disaster. They can only watch everything behind them annihilate at an extremely fast speed, disappear, finally let out a roar of pain and despair, swept by sound waves and died. The city of Ingxing includes the cities near Ingxing, and it will be wiped out instantly. The death toll exceeds 50 million. Such a terrifying scene broke all the others who were still holding a fluke. They cursed loudly at the senior officials of the Green League. Why didn't they send force to destroy the monsters? There are also some humans who believe that the world has entered the countdown to the end of the day. They start the final madness and do the dark things usually hidden in their hearts. The whole world is in chaos. Focus Supreme Council. The entire council was in panic. Someone shouted, "Quick! Make a decision. We can't drag on. We must leave Green Star. Otherwise we will die here with them." Just after this person finished speaking, in a corner of the big screen, a small spaceship is rising into the sky, flying towards the sky. Someone pointed at the big screen and instantly zoomed in, and then everyone saw that this was a civilian version of the spaceship, only owned by the top richest of Focus. Obviously, some of the top rich have already decided that the Green Star must die and are ready to escape from the Interstellar. This makes the seniors even more anxious, shouted one by one to leave. Glenn saw this and sighed helplessly. "You all go. I will stay and fight against this monster with the soldiers until the end." Then trouble Marshal Glenn. Let's go. Some people admire Glenn in their hearts, but they don't have the guts to stay and wait for death. After finished speaking, the door of the entire meeting room was opened. They flocked to the spaceship that was already prepared. It didn't take long for a large number of spacecraft to take off on the ground, preparing for an escape journey. Still guards in front of the TV. Some people who hope that something strange happens are completely desperate. Green Star. That's it. Those cowards are ready to abandon our home planet. Glenn, who was still in the conference room, sighed silently, and then launched the final combat instructions. A fighter plane took off and rushed towards the location of the star whale. All the long-range missiles were launched. For a time, the entire Green Star sky was full of long-tail flames, and a cluster of aircraft that cover the sky and the sun. There are more high-altitude attacks in the atmosphere. All the attacks blasted towards the starry sky whale. There are some remaining supernatural beings, as well as the descendants of supernatural beings to kill the star whale, is doing a suicide fight, but everything all in vain. The star whale is too strong, far beyond the perception of the green star people. Under a roar, all the resistance was shattered. The entire sky is endless fireworks and fly ash. In addition to two unexpected attacks that caused damage to this monster, humans faced a prepared star whale. Is no different from Zhongzhen ant, even weaker than the ant, because billions of ants may be able to kill elephants, but billions of humans are unlikely to defeat the star whale. This monster is so powerful that it is far from being able to win by relying on quantity. In the highest meeting room of Focus, it is quiet at this moment, and only Glenn is still there. At this moment, he has not issued any combat instructions, just quietly watching the monsters on the screen killing them. Human life is really fragile. Compared with this monster, the entire green star is doomed to perish. He just watched silently, without the slightest change in expression on his face. But immediately, his eyes opened wide, staring at the screen. A monster appeared abruptly on the screen. It seems to appear out of thin air. It slapped the whale-like figure much larger than it. The huge whale was slapped to the ground. The entire ground was instantly blasted out of a pit with a depth of at least 1 kilometer. The earth was torn apart, and huge swaths of boulders were lifted out of thousands of meters. The whale-like monster opened its mouth and roared. Although no sound can be heard, Marshal Glenn knows that this blow will definitely cause huge damage to the whale-like monster. The monster Glenn who came suddenly was very familiar. Is the one that appeared 100 years ago, with the big sun dragon with flare bullets. But compared to 100 years ago, this giant dragon seems to be much bigger than the giant whale. The whole appearance has also changed a lot. Its body seems to be much stronger. If it gave Glenn a sense of harmony and elegance 100 years ago, then it feels strong now. Before and after comparison, it is like an ordinary person and a strong fitness man. There is an extra crimson behind it, like a light wheel made up of flames. It is like a star ring, surrounding the dragon's body, and in the space around it, it is very naturally twisted. Everything seems to be the way it should be. Natural and harmonious. Really? I didn't expect that. 100 years ago, the two monsters appeared on the green star. But how did it appear? Mingming hadn't detected any satellites before. Haha. It doesn't matter, the green star will be destroyed anyway, whether it is destroyed by the giant star whale alone or by the battle between the dragon and the star whale. Makes no difference at all. General Glenn was a little confused at first, but soon he was relieved. Why bother to think so much about the dying person? He regained his peace and quietly watched everything on the screen. It's you. The starry sky whale that was smashed into the ground turned its body and looked at the giant dragon that appeared suddenly, extremely angry. The flare bullet and the spear of steel that it had thought to cause damage to it before were attacks by this guy, but it didn't find Shillong. Now that Zero appeared, he naturally believed that he had just attacked him. While looking at the angry starry sky whale, Shillong didn't know what the other party was thinking. But even if it knew it, it wouldn't care. Because after 100 years of living on the sun, he has become much stronger than 100 years ago. This had to make Xylem lament the power of the plutonium race. Didn't know whether other plutonium dragons were the same as him. After 100 years on the sun, his power has surpassed the strength of the 1,000-year-old power when he faced the Arcane Empire. It took 80 years for Shillong to adapt to a pressure of nearly 300 billion times the atmospheric pressure of a blue star in 100 years, and then swallowed the stellar core. The material there really had a significant effect on Shillong. The firepower and energy in its body were greatly strengthened. Has the effect of accelerating growth. Of course, this effect is not as good as the increase that consumes the power of faith, but it is almost 3-4 times as much. Another thing is that it has changed from a normal dragon to a fitness dragon. 300 billion times the blue star atmospheric pressure is no joke. The dragon muscle on is more developed, and the density and hardness of the body are also greatly improved. The body has been strengthened in all directions, so that it has reached level 15 in the system evaluation. Strength far exceeds 100 years ago. Originally, Shillong wanted to continue living in the sun, but he accidentally discovered that the fat boy, the star beast whale, was actually heading towards the green star. This forced Shillong to follow him quickly. After all, the green star population is quite large. Shillong has experienced more worlds than before, more than 8 billion. Part 2. This is a lot of power of faith. How could he give up? Immediately turned into a red gold meteor and followed the starry sky whale. As for why the starry sky whales and green stars can't be found, this is naturally because Shillong used the concealment arcane. The green star cannot understand arcane arts, and the starry sky whale has no ability to see through the illusion. Therefore, there is the scene before him. You bastard! Do you want to grab my food again? Unforgivable. I must kill you this time. The starry sky whale has been dazzled by the anger, and it has not thought about why the tight 100 years of not seeing it, Shillong will have such a big change. Its angry tail swept towards Shillong. This tail directly caused a dozen super hurricanes within a radius of tens of kilometers. The already dilapidated land was once again torn apart by the wind blade and rolled up. The air is roaring. Large areas of air are compressed into mercury liquid like mercury, booming fiercely towards Shillong. In contrast, Shillong's claws are several times smaller than the star whale. Seems to stand in front of the giant tail casually. Rumbling, the terrible roar completely dissipated the dust and mist in a radius of hundreds of kilometers, and the ground sank again under this force. But the dragon in front of him is still motionless. How is it possible? The star whale was also startled. If it were 100 years ago, although the strengths of the two were equal, with their size and first-hand advantage, this blow would be enough to blast the monster in front of you 100 kilometers away. But now, what is going on? Lamb! The starry sky whale did not want to think about it, and opened its mouth with a roar, and the terrible sound wave hit Shillong at close range. The surrounding land exploded, but the strange dragon holding its tail tightly just shook its body, watching it quietly like a okay dragon. Seeing this, the starry sky whale was even more frightened, but it still didn't want to think too much, just kept roaring with a loud voice. The roar of this voice is earth-shaking, roared the whole ground to sink thousands of meters again. When roared, his throat and eyes were uncomfortable before he stopped. But the little dragon in front of it still looks at it silently. The gaze seems to say, "This is over? I don't feel anything like that." The star whale was a little dumbfounded. "It's over roaring? Is it my time?" Silo smiled faintly, very satisfied with his current strength, immediately pressed his claws, pinched the starry sky whale's tail and gently lifted it, and then slammed it on the ground. With Lao's cry, the earth rioted again. Boom, 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 boom. Mingming has a huge difference in body shape, but what appeared in front of everyone was a reversal scene. The huge, starry sky whale was caught by the tail of the little dragon, smashing the ground frantically. A radius of hundreds of kilometers, the riots were endless. The rocks were blasted to the sky by a powerful force, and they never fell. The starry sky whale neighs more. Didn't know how many smashed. The little dragon suddenly flicked its forelimbs and threw the huge star whale into the sky. Dozens of times the speed of sound makes the body of the starry sky whale rub against the air, and large sparks emerge on its surface. It was quickly thrown out of the atmosphere. Fly to the universe and stars. All the human beings who were still watching, all stared blankly. This huge whale monster that made humans desperate was actually thrown out of the green star like this? Green star. Is this rescued? Still have to face a monster more terrifying than the previous whale monster? No matter what they thought, Shillong's movements did not stop. Seeing that the starry sky whale is no longer among the green stars, Shillong doesn't need to be merciful. He suddenly spread his wings, then took a deep breath. All the elements within 100 li, the airflow is sucked into the lungs. Its body burned with red golden flames and light. The flame star ring around the body began to shine. His belly bulged high, and the golden light flashed in his huge mouth. Finally, the dragon wings spread out from behind, ejected a stream of red gold flames. Leaned back and leaned forward, a torrent of red gold that was surging, as if to burn and tear the world. It twists the space within a radius of more than 10 kilometers, and blasts directly on the whale in the cosmic sky. The light burst out dozens of times more intense than the sun. The terrible shock wave directly destroyed everything within thousands, tens of thousands of kilometers. Whether it is Green Star's satellite equipment or other strategic deployments, all explode into cosmic fireworks. When the explosion ended, there was nothingness for tens of thousands of kilometers. Only the starry sky whale still exists. It rolled its stomach, its skin was torn, and its body disappeared by a tenth. The internal organs are all exposed. The blue blood is constantly falling. The humans who watched through other ground equipment are undoubtedly more shocked. Wuxia World. Online, the whale that almost destroyed humans just died? But how would this stronger dragon monster deal with humans like them? The uneasy humans only saw the strange dragon suddenly transform into a red gold meteor, flying towards the cosmic star sea, the dead whale monster. We humans, are we saved? Is this strange dragon so powerful that it is incomprehensible to leave? A group of people thought of this, and they yelled in excitement. And on the chaotic street outside, the big screens that were broadcast in the open air appeared on this scene, so that all the crazy people were quiet and could not help but continue watching. Even Marshal Glenn, who was extremely stable, was shaking with excitement, and his hands were tightly clasped together. Humanity, has it really survived this crisis of destruction? Shillong's speed was very fast. It didn't take long before he flew away from the green star and came to the corpse of the star whale floating in the starry sky. Looking at the starry sky whale in front of him, Siro's eyes flashed with a strange color. This guy really did not die so easily. Even if the body has disappeared by a tenth, its concreteness is still absorbing the energy of the starry sky and slowly repairing. Chapter 341. With the arrival of Shillong, the body of the starry sky whale shook obviously. Before Shillong continued to act, the starry sky whale screamed. Send a signal to Shillong. Don't fight. I give up. You are stronger than me. The core of this planet is yours. There was some fear in the words. Its huge head. I can't understand how to think about it, but in just 100 years, how the guy who was just like it before did it. It's a star beast, one of the most noble races in the universe. How can you not even beat a little dragon? This is not normal at all. But there is no time to think about this issue. The most important thing now is to beg for mercy. As a star beast with a lifespan of billions of years and almost equivalent to a planet, it does not want to end its lifespan in a short tens of thousands of years. This planet originally belonged to me, Shillong said with a flash of eyes. The star whale was taken aback, and then immediately said, yes, this planet belongs to you, and we have never encountered it before. I will leave here immediately, the star whale said, swinging its tail, dragging its mutilated body to leave. But Shillong quickly intercepted it in front of it, watching it silently. A pair of eyes shining like stars made the star whale feel tremendous pressure. How on earth are you willing to let me go? The star whale doesn't have much contact with other creatures, but it's not a fool either. Domineering races like them also have some inherited memories. Being my subordinate, I will let you go. Shillong's eyes were fixed on the opponent. His eyes are full of desire. He wants more and stronger subordinates. The previous subordinates had extremely limited potential, and it was almost impossible to upgrade to the level of a star whale. Excluding Shillong himself, his entire legion is actually not too strong. Take a look at the few planets he encountered after coming out of the Alliance Star. One is the world of spirits, and there are two in that world that can match the self of 100 years ago. Sending out the entire Dragon Empire to conquer is nothing but a dead end. After the Devil World, there are dozens of legends and hundreds of legends, as well as several junior demigods and the first Devil King at the advanced demigod level. In contrast to the force of the Dragon Empire, it was crushed again. Unless you use the fusion bomb developed by the Empire's Asylum ability. This weapon has special effects against the devil, and it can completely destroy the enemy. However, once this weapon is used, the humans on this planet will die with the devil. Can only pick up a whiteboard planet. Afterwards, the fantasy world was crushed by the Dragon Empire, but this low-level world should be extremely rare. Then there is the current world, where the green star is. The technological strength of this world is pretty good, comparable to the Dragon Empire. The two sides fight. If the is hard, it will definitely hurt both sides. The previous super-kinetic energy weapon is enough to directly shoot his current strongest subordinate, Duan Tianhao. However, if you get the information ahead of time and send people to find out the truth, you can win a good battle. But then, face the brutal attack of a star whale. The Dragon Empire can only play GG again. Generally speaking, there is too little high-end power. That's why Shillong had thoughts about the star whale in front of him. You want me to be your subordinate? The star whale looked at Shillong hesitantly. After a long time, he said, what do you want me to do? Conquer other worlds for me. Can't you do it yourself? Only I am too slow. It is good. Huh. Shillong was a little surprised. So simple? But I hope you can promise me one request. You said, our star whale clan uses planetary nuclei as food and spends our entire life looking for food and eating. We generally control this ratio within 1 to 5 so as not to affect our physical development. I hope you will not break the tradition of our family. Shillong looked at the star beast whale and fell silent. This guy, what do you mean by this? Work for 100 years and rest for 500 years? Fuck, it's pretty beautiful. This bastard, do you know what 996 blessing is? He is so lazy. I really want to invite Teacher Ma from the previous life to communicate with him. However, the polygraph spell tells Shillong that the other party is telling the truth. This made Shillong a little embarrassed. This guy, who is still developing, is still a child. I force child labor like this. Although nobody cares, it doesn't seem to be very good either. And the other party is still growing. Looking at the other person's very serious eyes, Shillong fell into deep thought, and after a long time he said seriously, isn't 1:2 okay? My other subordinates are all 996, working 12 hours a day and only taking 1 day off a week, and they are extremely conscious. Everyone will automatically work overtime. You have to take 1 rest and 5 days off. Even if you don't sleep that day, it's a bit too late, right? Huh. Shinkong Whale was dumbfounded, thinking about the meaning of the other party's words, and finally said, no, that will stop my body from growing, and if this happens, our body will collapse. To be killed by you is to die, and to break down is also to die. You kill me directly." At the end, the half-dead fellow became hardened again. Shillong looked at each other for a long time before nodding. "All right, it's up to you. By the way, my work and rest periods are generally replaced by 10 and 50 years. Also, I hope that my working hours start from when I stop eating the star core. My rest time starts from when I start eating. Halfway, because after finishing the work, the time to return to the star core will not be counted during my rest time. Is this okay?" Shillong's mouth twitched slightly when he heard the words. "How do you feel familiar with this process?" "There is in the memory of inheritance. It really makes the whale feel ashamed. I thought I would never encounter such a thing. The world is really unpredictable." The starry sky whale's whale face was full of sorrow. I looked at Shillong on one side for a moment. "I agree, but I have to make a mark on you, otherwise I don't know where you are going. By the way, if you are looking for food in the starry sky and come across a planet with life, don't attack, you can tell I. Every time one is found, you will be given a 10-year holiday." Soren said. "Oh." The starry sky whale's eyes lit up, and then he nodded hard. Shillong talked nonsense with it for a while, and this guy had recovered a little and a half. Stretching out his sharp claws, Shillong carved a mark on the opponent's body, a square word. It is perfectly engraved on the opponent's forehead, which contains the magical power of Shillong and the power of faith. Without the destruction of strong external forces, it is enough to guarantee immortality for thousands of years. Then, Shillong portrayed the portal again, and temporarily left the plane with the star whale. The humans on the green star were madly happy when they saw the giant dragon that appeared suddenly took away the giant whale that almost destroyed the world. One by one shouted loudly, and the happy people kept crying, "Green star is saved." Speeches like the dragon savior are flying everywhere. But after being happy, some people fell into distress. This time the giant whale invaded. The level of green star civilization has gone backwards 100 years. 6 to 70 million have been wiped out by giant whales. About 10 million people fled by spacecraft. Because the green star was thought to be dead, it caused a riot, and more people died. Over 100 million. These rioters were liquidated in the future, which was another catastrophe. More than a dozen cities have been destroyed. The entire green star is waiting to be thriving. Marshall Glenn wanted to restore order at least for several years. Regardless of the green star human, Shillong returned to the focus planet with the starry sky whale, and the appearance of the two monsters naturally made some people happy and worried. Part 2. Rejoicing. Naturally, it is the dog-licking group headed by Brain Demon. After seeing Shillong, this guy cried out with a wow, and ran to the front and cried out holding Shillong's thigh. I kept talking about the pain I missed Shillong, and thought I was abandoned, etc. But the worry is naturally Duan Tianhao. This guy had been floating since Shillong hadn't appeared for 100 years. In the following decades, it was even believed that Shillong might have been killed by certain gods in other planes. Everyday life is extremely joyful. He felt that no one was finally pressing on his head. No one can rob his own body. In the last 10 years, he even had the ambition to dominate the world. A lot of people were formed secretly. Just when they were about to launch a coup in a while, Duan Tianhao found that his nightmare had appeared again. This made him tremble constantly after seeing Shillong. This kind of anomaly can't be concealed from Xylem. He just watched Duan Tianhao silently. It seems that in the future, let his subordinates expedition to alien planes, let Duan Tianhao these betrayers be the vanguard. After 100 years, the strength of these guys has improved a lot. Among all the people, Duan Tianhao is the strongest. He has already advanced to the demigod level, and among the demigods, he also belongs to the middle level. After all, it was a real dragon that mutated toward him. The strength of the others is a little less, but they are only about 7 in the beginning. In the Dragon Empire, the total number of the 3 planes has reached more than 20 billion. The 3 planets divide these humans equally, and the population is already very crowded. Although after 100 years of development, the Empire has the navigation technology to leave the solar system, but they have not found other planets that can allow life to survive. As for exploring other dimensional planes, without Shillong's permission, they would not dare. However, although the population of 20 billion people is a lot, because Shillong has not appeared in 100 years, faith has been thinned a lot, much less than the acquisition of faith 100 years ago. For this reason, Shillong began to emerge in the 3 worlds and re-established his beliefs. He uses the power of faith to heal injuries and improve his strength for those who have accumulated a lot of points. For this reason, nearly 10 billion beliefs have been consumed. However, after those 100 years, his belief at this time is still 100 billion. In fact, if calculated according to more than 4 million per day before sun exercise, there should be more than 150 billion. But 100 years of no show, let the faith fade away. It's been 3 years since I've done it all. At this time, my faith is solid again, and Shillong's daily income has reached 8 million. At this time, Shillong's Dragon Empire had kyanite, and the demonization and the supply of kyanite had greatly improved the strength of the entire empire. He began to let these people try to open the door of the plane by themselves and conquer. Of course, Shillong won't make a move this time. In Star Whale, Shillong didn't want it to make a move either. After all, it is a pit cargo that does one rest in 5 days. It is not a conventional combat force. After the Dragon Empire lost its power in the 2 major battles, it became more difficult to find a target for conquest. Let the condemned person wear a spacesuit to explore the way first. After finding a suitable target plane, record the coordinates. Then dispatched people proficient in invisibility and transformation to conduct a 3-year internal investigation. Then nonstop began to open the next portal, continue to test. 20 effective plane coordinates were found in a row. Among them, 8 points were discovered when the Dragon Empire's people had just stepped into the opposite plane. Then it was counter-invaded. Of these 8 planes, among the anti-invaders, the combined anti-invasion strength of the 7 planes is no more than a legend. The brain demon who was waiting at the portal easily took it down and pressed for interrogation. The last one has a demigod existence. After fighting fiercely with the brain demon and others for a long time, Zero saw that he could not get it, so he personally slapped the demigod to death. The rest pressed down for interrogation. Of course, although these anti-invaders are not strong, it cannot be concluded that their planes are weak. After all, the anti-invaders were just a group of people who were lucky enough to find this plane portal. It's just the tip of the iceberg on that plane. With 20 plane coordinates, Shillong stopped the plane exploration, then began to interrogate the prisoners of the 8 planes. From it, the Dragon Empire found that 2 of these 8 empires belonged to level 1 and level 2 civilizations, 4 are in level 3 civilization. The last 2 are in level 4 civilization. Well, here is the civilization level. This is the latest setting by Shillong and those experts for the convenience of conquering. Level 1 civilization is like a blue star in ancient times, without any extraordinary and technological power. This kind of civilization, a level 10 profession, is invincible for them. Level 2 civilization is the Western fantasy world conquered by the Dragon Empire, has a very low degree of mystery, or equivalent to the level of non-nuclear during the Second World War. At this level, just sending a few legends is enough to easily conquer. Level 3 civilization is the previous Alliance star and Green Star. The planet with the devil is also in this class Wuxi world. Online this level is enough to compete with the Dragon Empire. Of course, it is still conquered. Their fate. On the other hand, level 4 is a monster with a demigod or higher. For example, the world of spirits has 2, and the Star Whale is also a monster of this level. Just 1 head is enough to destroy the Dragon Empire without Shillong. Shillong didn't know if this monster was a god. Is it a weak god? Or is it a false god? Level 4 civilization is the existence that the Dragon Empire will not provoke for the time being. Level 5 includes level 5 and above, which represents incomprehensible power. There is a true in it, or the technology has reached the level of annihilation that they cannot understand. Dear, click in, give a good comment. The higher the score, the faster the update. It is said that the new full marks are found at the end of the beautiful wife. The new revision and upgrade address of the mobile station. Data and bookmarks are synchronized with the computer station and fresh reading without ads. Chapter 342. 2 level 4 civilizations gave up directly, and level 3 civilizations sent people into it quietly to explore the possible intelligence of launching a war and create a war advantage. Level 1-2, don't need to talk nonsense, just send an army to suppress the border. Generally speaking, the journey of conquering the alien planes is still feasible. Zero was ready to continue to sleep. The 100-year-old team that has been researching growth science has also achieved a lot of results. Turning 112 into 114 can take 11 years and grow for 38 years. However, Shillong did not fall asleep immediately, but returned to Green Star. Those Green Stars, seeing that the 2 world exterminating beasts had been gone for 2 years, they all thought they were safe. Many high-level elites who fled have also returned to Green Star. But they never dreamed that Shillong would kill another carbine. With an absolutely invincible posture, he asked the senior leaders of Green Star to surrender. And because Green Star has passed the ravages of the Starry Whale, it knew that it could not resist the existence of Shillong, which is stronger than the Starry Whale, and succeeded without encountering much resistance. There are about 5 billion people in the entire Green Star. After displaying the flickering power of the Lord of Dawn, Xylem conquered a large group of human beings whose hearts were empty because of the great destruction. They believe in Shillong as the true god. After all, on the basis of showing his power, a few years ago, he was the dragon hero who prevented the starry sky whale from extinction. This is a natural big advantage. The whole process went smoothly beyond Shillong's expectations. For this reason, his daily income of faith has even reached 7 million. Then Shillong flew to the stars to continue exercising. With his speed in the universe at this time, it is already as high as 60 times the speed of sound. A voyage of more than 100 million kilometers can be achieved in only 2 months. Zero had already told the brain demon and others that he would only show up once every 100 years. We want them to do a good job in propaganda and teaching of a firm belief. Has been staying in the stars to exercise, and Shillong, which absorbs the energy of the stars, is undoubtedly a big hazard to the stars, is continuously reducing the lifespan of stars. His essence is the same as those star beasts. The only difference is that one is the nucleus of the planetary star, and the other is the stellar nucleus. However, the star beast absorbs the star core, causing the planet to die out very quickly. Taking the starry sky whale as a young whale, the conversion rate of this rapid death is about 1:100,000. A green star with 1 billion lives, if it is stared at by a star whale. Then its actual lifespan is only 10,000 years. And in these 10,000 years, because the starry sky whales will open holes on the planet when they swallow the crust and the leaked energy. For various reasons, within a few years, the green star will cause a lot of changes, which may lead to a partial reduction in the number of humans. Every few years and decades thereafter, green star's environment will change drastically, and those who cannot adapt will be gradually eliminated. As a plutonium, Shillong is also a great damage to the star, but it is not as great as the star beast. After all, the energy of a star is not comparable to that of a planet. But it is equally scary. The ratio of the lifespan of stars is about 1 to 10,000. This degree of extraction will cool the star every 100 years, thereby reducing the global climate of the green star. But this is actually not obvious. Shillong combined with green star's information and asked Dorji now. In 100 years, the temperature in the oasis will only drop by about 0.3 degrees. Although it lasted long enough to kill the green star people. But the Shillong Dragon Empire has a population of 25 billion. Territories with several planes can be explored. Before the star ends, is it impossible to find a new planet for them? Obviously, there is no need to worry. The next 100 years have passed. Shillong's body length has exceeded kilometers. Belief points have become more than 400 billion. It can be seen that this journey of conquest should be pretty good. Returned to Alliance Star again, got in touch with the brain demon, and got a general understanding of the situation. Realized that plane conquering was not as simple as he thought. More than 60 years ago, the brain devils encountered an invisible monster while attacking a level 2 fantasy plane. The Dragon Empire was already in a horizontal push in this world, but immediately after conquering the world, this monster appeared. In front of the 10,000 troops of the Dragon Empire, the invisible power swept across, and the people of the Dragon Empire were torn, crushed, and flew. In the face of this situation, the people of the Dragon Empire launched a counterattack after the initial panic, but it was useless at all. All attacks could not enter the opponent's body. The invisible force twists everything, whether it is a technological weapon or a magic attack. Some are directed in other directions, and some are directly bounced back. The Dragon Empire was directly defeated and hurriedly fled back to the Alliance Star. Fortunately, the opponent did not continue to pursue it, so the matter was over. But there was another accident when he was fighting with a level 1 civilization. After conquering the natives there, a group of self-proclaimed gods sprang up there, directly destroying the conquering army. Then counter-invade the Alliance planet. These guys naturally don't have the strength of a true god, but they also have the strength of a demigod, and the strongest one belongs to the peak demigod. Brain Demon, Duan Tianhao, and other demigods could not resist either. Until then, everyone found the star whale. This guy shouted several intruders to death, and the anti-invasion was over. After being counter-invaded this time, Alliance stars lost a lot, and the number of people killed was at least several million. There are also the victims of those expeditions to alien planes. Xylem all connected them to the plane of Dora. Dora is a magical plane of illusion. It can connect with any plane. As long as it takes a little bit of time, even the soldiers of the Dragon Empire who died on a different plane will not dissipate their souls after death, but will enter the plane of Dora. Now the plane of Dora has a faint feeling of the kingdom of Shillong. In fact, he felt that the kingdom of God was not necessary at all. That is the tortoise shell of the gods. However, its ability to attract believers is indeed very good, and only this ability makes Shillong pay more attention to it. For these people, Shillong will naturally not be stingy with rewards. The 100 Years' War, to appease the families of dead soldiers, and the rewards after the victory of the war, made Shillong directly cost nearly 100 billion faith. It dares to say that few other gods dare to play like this. If it hadn't had a lot of demonized people supporting its faith, it felt like it would be struggling to make ends meet. This also lets Shillong know that certain weak gods are not easy. Maybe they have a lot of alien planes, but because of the doctrine and the lack of rewards and punishments, this may make them millions, tens of millions of years, or even hundreds of millions of years of accumulation, inferior to those new gods suitable for mission. This has to be said to be a sad story. 20 plane gates, in the end, only 3 failed to explore successfully. After 17 planes were added, the population of the Dragon Empire expanded to 100 billion level. The power of faith is as high as 30 million per day. The remaining 3 planes, 2 of which are at least level 4, Shillong's Dragon Empire really may not be able to deal with it. Even if it is dealt with, it will cause immeasurable damage to the enemy's entire civilization. In the end, it may be nothing more than an empty planetary shell. Already has 21 planes, and the technology has developed enough to explore the Dragon Empire outside the solar system. There is no shortage of living space. Part 2. Therefore, the Dragon Empire still has no intention of moving these 2 lowest level 4 civilizations. He directly opened the strange level 2 plane portal with invisible monsters. Shillong entered the portal of the plane and appeared on an uninhabited mountain passage. Then his body slowly rose into the air. Binoculars shrink like needles, quickly scanning everything on the entire plane. The whole world belongs to the Tianyuan place type. I have to say that in the planes of Shillong's battle, each plane is divided into 2 forms. One is the universe of stars, like the solar system, with a larger cosmic sky outside, with different overall sizes, but up to now, Shillong has encountered the largest, but there are only hundreds of star systems, far less terrifying than the previous blue stars. There is also a strange plane in the Tianyuan area. The whole Earth has an end. The sun high in the sky is not an ordinary star, but a kind of glowing planet closer to the Earth. The entire universe is like a gate, and it is small and pitiful compared to the universe and stars. Among them, the plane with the devil that Shillong encountered before, and the fantasy plane with extremely weak force, and the current plane, all belong to the Tianyuan local plane, as if being locked in a box. Shillong flew to an altitude of 10,000 meters, and he saw everything in the whole world. There are nobles dancing slowly, poor clothes, hungry and cold, and knights who are chasing their limits and constantly challenging themselves. The combat power of the whole world is indeed not strong. Shillong watched for a long time, and the strongest thing he saw was a swordsman who could instantly cut a tree about 1 meter in diameter. He searched for a long time, and finally found an anomaly in a valley hundreds of kilometers away. The light there was slightly distorted. A monster with a huge head and a tall tree was suddenly swallowed by an invisible mouth. This is indeed a real transparent monster. After a few meters of monsters entered the monster's mouth, they were swallowed and entered the stomach pouch. Because its body was completely transparent, those monsters would float in midair strangely when swallowed. But immediately, under the action of a strange energy, the monster will be quickly decomposed and disappear without a trace. Zero's eyes carefully looked at the opponent, using the twisted light as the boundary, and carefully sketching the opponent's appearance in his mind. Finally, a monster with a body length of nearly a kilometer suddenly appeared in his mind. The appearance of this monster is a strange dragon. At the same time, when Shillong was looking at the opponent, Shillong felt that the opponent seemed to be watching it as well. Smiled slightly, he directly showed his true body. A dragon larger than the invisible monster appeared in the air. This dragon is definitely more than a kilometer from beginning to end. The wings spread out are enough to cover the mountain, reached the level of 1,400 meters, even at an altitude of 10,000 meters. The humans on the ground can still see clearly. For the pitch-black dragon that suddenly appeared in the sky, everyone who saw him fell into a deep panic. They couldn't imagine why such a terrifying monster appeared in this world. The whole world is in chaos at this moment. Shillong condensed his breath and floated towards the invisible dragon. Has been in the sky above the opponent, and Zero said, "Friend, you blocked the way to conquer my dragon empire." The tone of his speech is fairly friendly. After all, as a similar person, he will not act without knowing the other party's origin. Maybe it is a believer in the old dragon of Bahamut? Didn't that beat your own dragon? Evil plutonium dragon. Have you finally extended your claws to this innocent world? Those monsters with evil powers decades ago are your servants? The invisible dragon also spoke. His voice sounded quite old. Shillong raised his eyebrows slightly and smiled helplessly. "Friend, do you know the of good dragons, Bahamut? Platinum dragon god, lord of the north wind, king of good dragons. I travel through endless plains and have heard of this name." The invisible dragon said, "I think there must be some misunderstanding between us. I am Silent Soderbergh. Although I am a plutonium dragon, I am a good metal dragon who believes in His Majesty Bahamut." The invisible dragon heard the words and was slightly silent. It seemed to be looking at Shillong, and then said for a long time, "Evil and cunning plutonium dragon, you must not deceive me to live in seclusion here for a long time, even right and wrong. Regardless of, you who only invaded this plane decades ago, actually claim to be a believer in the king of good dragons? Please don't make such a joke. It's not funny at all. I just want to bring new life to this world. People in the world who are still in the backward and ignorant period are not living well. Since you said you have been here for many years, Wuxia World Online, haven't you seen the essence of this world? The aristocratic luxury is endless. The civilians are hungry and cold, starved to death, sick to death, countless. If this kind of world falls under my rule, although everyone cannot be luxuriously enjoyed, No one will starve to death or freeze to death. You said that you have traveled through the endless plane. Then you must have seen the technological plane, the mature technological plane. How do they rule? Still use me? Soren said. The invisible dragon was silent again for a while before saying, everything in the world follows a natural path. This is a matter of their plane. As a foreign creature, you should not interfere and conquer. They, foreign creatures? Shouldn't you intervene? You are really arrogant. Xylem smiled disdainfully. I just saw it. You swallowed several monsters that originally lived here. Those monsters also have life, but they were eaten by you, a foreign creature. Don't you think you are evil and arrogant? What right do you have to accuse me of doing so? What about me who is willing to bring peace and progress to this world? The invisible dragon is even more silent. This plutonium dragon is right. He is arrogant. In his eyes, all creatures on this plane are just a group of lowly inferior creatures, like ants, both life and death. Meaningless. Chapter 343. But in the long life, there will always be some special lives occasionally, causing a wave of waves in the life of the invisible dragon for thousands of years. Although it is trivial, the dragon has been born for thousands of years. In order not to let himself live like a corpse, the invisible dragon doesn't mind spending some price to help the lucky ones whom he likes to fulfill their trivial wishes. This is the flavoring agent in the long life of the invisible dragon. To guard the world for 1,000 years, this request is nothing to the invisible dragon. As a reward for making him feel a little joyful, he agreed to someone's request. Is precisely because of this, there will be a scene before me. This is an agreement, my agreement with a mortal. The invisible dragon said. Promise? What does this have to do with me? Give me a face. The invisible dragon was silent for a while, and said a word that made Xylem startled. Have you ever eaten the fruit of face? You actually want me to give you face? Shillong was stunned. Fruit of face? What do you mean? The invisible dragon was puzzled. You want me to give up the conquest of this world? It is not impossible. As long as you can tell me the coordinates of the plane related to Bahamut. Zero did not continue to explain the problem of face fruit with the other party. Instead made this request. In his opinion, since the other party had heard of Bahamut, he naturally had contact with the world related to Bahamut. As long as you have the coordinates of the relevant plane, it is extremely easy to deduct the coordinates of Bahamut's main material world. Then he can find his way home. Speaking of this Shillong, he was angry. Bahamut, the old dragon, actually completely eliminated the traces of the world connection after the random teleportation, so that he could not reverse the plane coordinates. Upon hearing Zero's suggestion, the invisible dragon said, Sorry, I haven't experienced any coordinates on the plane before. I never record the coordinates of those who have experienced the world. That is unnecessary in my opinion. I never walk the repetitive path, nor will I remember it. Xylem was silent, half sounding, really? Then this world can't just give up like this. At this moment, a garrison in this world quickly approached where Shillong was. This was a night force of hundreds of people. This 100-man army, because of Shillong's suppression of his own breath and distance, it was brave when he saw a monster like Shillong daring to approach. But even if they showed their courage, except for the middle-aged blonde knight headed by them, the faces of others were still ugly. The intimate war horse sat down and was even more restless, trying to turn around and escape, but was suppressed by the knights. They are garrisons on the border, and they are responsible for all abnormalities on the border. The leader was a middle-aged blonde knight with luxuriant beard and hair. He held a strange snail in his hand and placed it in front of his mouth. He shouted to Shillong, who was far away from the sky, Dragon friend in the sky. Hello. I am Moriyukian, the head of the frontier garrison of the Belfa Empire. I welcome the arrival of the great dragon on behalf of the Belfa Empire. Because of the strange conch in his hand, what the man said perfectly reached Shillong's ears. Didn't wait for Shillong to speak. The invisible dragon on the side of was the first to say, Welcome to a plutonium dragon? Ignorant ants, you said the most interesting joke I have heard in thousands of years of dragon life. This is enough to make me laugh for 1,000,000 years. The invisible dragon's voice is not loud, but it can be clearly transmitted to everyone, including Xylem's ears. The sound seemed to ring in my ears. These humans didn't even know that there was an invisible dragon next to them, and thought it was what Shillong said, although they didn't understand what dragon the plutonium dragon was. But at least the voice of this dragon doesn't sound evil. The indifferent and meaningless voice made everyone slightly happy, thinking it was just a passing dragon. Lord Dragon, our Belfa Empire is a kind and hospitable country. As long as you come with kindness, we will welcome you warmly, and serve you delicious food, fresh soup. The headed blonde middle-aged said again, Ridiculous mortal. The whole world is mine. Why should I welcome you? Belfair Empire? From today, this world will only be the Dragon Empire. The sound of terrifying thunder rolled down, and the horses of the shaking knights rioted endlessly. The knights' complexions changed greatly after hearing this. The voice came from the sky. and it sounded extremely loud and domineering. Is different from the indifferent voice before. Who was talking before then? The man headed by was a little daunted and scared. Mortals, the only thing waiting for your future is to merge into my dragon empire, and the resistors will be reduced to ashes under my fire. The dragon in the sky opened its huge mouth, and a torrent of red gold flames rolled down, fell on a giant mountain a kilometer away. The turbulent flames covered the entire mountain hundreds of meters high. The original green mountain became a mountain of flames, and the fire was blazing, made the knights feel a huge horror. With this level of flame, just one squirt into their crowd is enough to make them all extinguished in an instant, right? Just as everyone was horrified, the next moment, the flame on the mountain was swept by an invisible force, and the flame was instantly extinguished. But the flames have been burning for a few seconds at this time, and the original green mountain has now become a bald mountain that is constantly steaming hot. The familiar, indifferent voice sounded in the ears of all the knights again. Evil plutonium dragon, is your power to threaten these mortals? This world should belong to my rule. Are you going to stop me? Shillong asked. The invisible dragon did not directly answer this question, but instead used its own strength to support the knights. These knights found themselves surrounded by an invisible force, floating with their horses, unable to move. Only two eyes could move, not to mention how horrified. But immediately, the indifferent voice sounded again. Mortal, if you don't want to die, stay away from here. This is not where you should be. When the voice fell, they were wrapped in invisible power, and they quickly retreated a distance of tens of thousands of meters before landing safely. This kind of mighty power like unnaturally made the knights more afraid. After a knight found himself moving, he immediately wanted to turn around and escape, but looking at the commander who had been standing for a long time, he still resisted panic and said, Team, Captain, let's run away. The two ends over there. Monsters are not something we can control at all. Other people also talked about it, all suggesting to leave soon. However, the head of the group was silent and looked at the black, little dragon in the sky tens of thousands of meters away. It took a long time to say, Cape, you two will lead 20 rides, return to the Empire, and report the matter to your majesty. The rest will stay with me. I want to see what happens here. Shillong silently watched the invisible dragon send people away, and already understood the other party's choice in his heart. No nonsense. His whole body directly turned into a huge red gold streamer, swooping down towards the invisible dragon. Just before the collision, a weird force made Zero directly change the direction of the impact, rubbing the body of the invisible dragon, and slammed into the ground. Shillong wanted to change direction, but it was too late, so he could only recoil with gravity to reduce the impact of the impact. The impact speed, close to 30 or 40 times the speed of sound, was cut by more than half in an instant, but the force that hit the ground straight into the ground was still too terrifying for the mortals in this world. Is far beyond the limit they can bear. The sky collapsed. The ground is sinking. The earth is in a frantic riot. The shock wave wrapped in large tracts of mud and rocks and spread wildly around. Part 2. Even if Zero had already lost a lot of speed at the last moment, it was extremely terrifying to land at a speed of sound, 10 times the speed of his head with a weight he could not estimate now. The mountains collapsed, and the trees fell apart. The impact of annihilation close to the kilometer level. I can see clearly even if it is hundreds of thousands of meters away. The horses under the hips neighed frantically, and the knights screamed in horror and turned around and ran. But this kind of low magic plane with only level 2, there is not much difference between horses and ordinary horses, generally at a speed of about 20 to 70 kilometers per hour. At this speed, how can you survive the impact of annihilation? The wave of horror swallowed everything along the way, and the knights who were still left regretted it. Why didn't they return to the Empire to report to your majesty the 20 people? But these actually don't need them to consider, because the 20 people didn't run far, and they were soon swallowed in despair. This wave of destruction wiped out everything within hundreds of kilometers. In this wave, Shillong's huge head stuck straight into the ground. The invisible dragon on the side of aimed at the timing and opened its mouth to exhale invisible breath. With Shillong as the center, everything within a few kilometers was squashed by gravity, and the strange turbulence tore the earth and the air, but it couldn't hurt Shillong. He quickly flew from the ground, and his hundreds-meter-long tail flew at the invisible dragon's weird position came again, trying to shift Shillong's tail, and after suffering a loss, Shillong also expanded his repulsion in the opposite direction, instantly offset the deviation of this attack. Boom! A sturdy tail slammed on the invisible dragon, accompanied by the roar of the invisible dragon. The air was directly blasted, and the invisible dragon was blasted for dozens of kilometers. A series of gas explosion clouds appeared. The entire ground is paired out by a very wide river. Before the invisible dragon turned its body, a red gold streamer sent a light to catch up with the invisible dragon that was blown away, and ran into its body again. This time the invisible dragon did not use that weird force to offset Shillong's impact, but directly acted on itself. While flying backwards, flew strangely to the side, avoiding Shillong's impact. The red golden streamer continued to fly forward for several kilometers, then turned an N-shaped curve in the air, and continued to hit the invisible dragon. This time the same as before, the weird force pulled the invisible dragon away. Even if Shillong tried to fix the opponent with gravity, the opponent could calmly dissolve Shillong's gravitational pull and dodge it, making Shillong rush away. Repeated this several times, Synopsis stopped a few hundred meters in front of the invisible dragon. He stood there, letting the opponent's breath spray on him. The power of tearing, the power of blasting, the power of squeezing, countless strange abilities bombarded his body. If it were 200 years ago, this level of attack could indeed cause trouble for Shillong and hurt him. But at this time, Shillong is a terrifying life that can withstand 300 billion times the atmospheric pressure. His defense has become so strong that other creatures cannot understand it. The density of muscle scales is so terrifying. The form of life is constantly evolving. Very abnormal. All the attacks of the invisible dragon are like throwing fireworks on an iron plate. It looks great, but the actual fart is not useful. Synopsis just walked up to the opponent's breath in such a carefree manner. Instead of attacking the enemy quickly this time, he slowly straightened up and stood on his hind legs, and then his two forelimbs grabbed the opponent's neck. He has already thought of how to deal with the strange power of the invisible dragon. His movements are not fast, and can even be described as slow. In the process of grasping, that invisible force appeared again, wanting to change Shillong's grasping direction, but because Shillong's grasping speed was too slow, he calmly changed the direction and continued to grasp the opponent. Repeated this several times without changing the direction of Shillong's claws. The invisible force applied the weird force on him, and he moved backwards. Shillong also uses gravity to control his body to approach quickly. If he is fast, Shillong is fast. He is slow, Shillong is slow. After dozens of seconds, Shillong's claws were getting closer and closer to the body of the invisible dragon. No matter if it is attacking or fleeing, the invisible force cannot get rid of Shillong by all means. Until the end, one of his forelimbs was caught by Shillong in the claws. Shillong felt the scales on the opponent's paw world. Online, it was very smooth, and the entire forelimb was relatively slender, which made him grasp it with one paw. There was a wicked smile at the corner of his huge mouth. Zero couldn't see the other person's face, but it should be very different. He laughed wildly, grabbed the opponent's forelimb and lifted it towards the sky, and then slammed into the ground. Along with the throbbing cry of the invisible dragon, the earth began to roar. All buildings within a radius of nearly 1,000 kilometers collapsed. Damaged. The entire 1 million square kilometers of the Belfa Empire was almost completely destroyed in this aftermath. The city wall collapsed, the house was destroyed, and the earthquake cracked. Among the tens of millions of humans in the empire, 80% of the population died in this earthquake. Some were crushed to death by houses, and some were swallowed by the cracked ground. To a dragon of Shillong's level, the entire empire was like an ant nest, which could be destroyed inadvertently. The crying and shouting shook the sky, but unfortunately, neither Shillong nor the invisible dragon paid too much attention to these ants. A beating enemy was struggling, a fate desperately trying to escape being beaten. Shillong smashed vigorously, and the invisible dragon screamed miserably, but in fact he did not suffer much damage. Chapter 344. There has always been a layer of invisible power on this giant dragon to protect itself, which greatly reduces the damage he receives. This guy, in terms of defense alone, far surpasses the star whale that Shillong encountered before, and is a very powerful dragon. Shillong estimated that it would be difficult to kill this dragon without using his true skills. It is definitely a dragon of the same level as the star whale, or even stronger. This is mainly because the dragon is too old. How can the little guy, whose whale's birth does not exceed 100,000, can be compared with the lifespan of thousands of years? Zero didn't actually want to kill the opponent. After being beaten for a while, he stopped his claws looking at the other side with scars. Do you want to continue to stop me, dear Mr. Invisible Dragon? Shillong mocked. The invisible dragon did not answer. He was panting heavily, and the white air current was particularly obvious in the dusty pit. To be honest, I don't want to kill you. You are a good dragon talent. It's a shame to die like this. Synopsis sighed. You don't want to kill me? The invisible dragon sneered. You don't want to kill me? You beat me so hard? Changed to other creatures, you have long been smashed into flesh. His leader looked around. I remember you said before that it will bring changes to this world and make ordinary humans live better. But now you look at this land. The entire Belfa Empire has been destroyed by you. The death toll is definitely in the tens of millions, and the plutonium dragon is indeed synonymous with evil and powerful. Shillong was shocked when he heard the words, and after looking around, he was a little surprised. He took a breath and said, how does it happen if one doesn't pay attention? Alas, the ground is too weak. Human beings are really too fragile. He sighed and then explained, if I said, I didn't mean it, would you believe it? What do you think? The invisible dragon's tone was mocking. Facts have proved that with your strength, you can't stop me at all. If it weren't for me to show favor, you would be dead. I am not interested in the agreement between you and the ants, but you are a dragon talent. I can give you a chance to join my empire, and I will let the world go. Those who have died, I will use my supernatural power to resurrect them. Want me to be your evil minion? No. A partner of justice. Do you still want to reject me? Obviously can't stop me. The more you try to stop me, the more harm the world will suffer. You know, I didn't really move at all just now. If you want the whole world to be destroyed because of you, then continue to resist. I don't care, although it is against the justice in my heart. But I am a flexible dragon. It is inevitable to sacrifice a small number of people for the benefit of most people. Shillong explained. The invisible dragon is silent. As I said before, joining my army will give up this world. Of course, I will not restrict your freedom forever. As long as 1,000 years, I will return your freedom. Is fair, right? For you who have lived for thousands of years, 1,000 years is nothing at all. In this way, you have completed an agreement with a certain ant. The invisible dragon was still silent, and it took a long time before he said, okay, I promise you. In his long life as a dragon, there are very few things he cares about, and things he wants to accomplish. Keeping promises is precisely one of the very important virtues and self-discipline. With 1,000 years of time, not only can the task of guarding this world be completed, but also the promise with this plutonium dragon can be completed. The invisible dragon feels that he is not losing. As for becoming an evil minion, actually, it doesn't matter at all. He is not a good dragon himself. Even if it is to destroy the world, he has never done it. But he never felt that he was evil. What he destroyed were all evil creatures. He was a neutral dragon. He thought so. Well, if you compare it with Pulong, then he should be a great dragon. Shillong was a little surprised at the invisible dragon who had suddenly agreed, but quickly figured it out. He used the power of more than 100 million beliefs to resurrect the unlucky ones who died in the aftermath. Of course, some people were still crushed under the houses and the unlucky ones who fell in the cracks of the ground. Even if he is resurrected, if he is not saved in time, he will experience a second death. The entire Belfa Empire has already suffered heavy losses, and it is difficult to escape the fate of being annexed. As for the whole world, all countries in the world can't understand the misery of the Belfa Empire. Can't imagine what kind of natural disasters this country has encountered. Until the hundreds of riders who resurrected from that, they knew the truth. The entire Belfa Empire was not destroyed by natural disasters, was destroyed by the aftermath of the battle between the two gods. A is a giant dragon with a body of more than 1,000 meters with golden light in the darkness. The other is an invisible, appearanceless god. The two are at war. Even if they have been transported by the invisible to more than 100 kilometers away, they are still killed by the aftermath. This horrible fact makes the entire world feel that they are small and shocked by the power of the gods. This has allowed some people in this world to spontaneously form a church that believes in two gods, the invisible of kindness, and destroy everything, the dark ruler dragon. In these two churches, the believers of the invisible and invisible god far surpass the dragon of the dark ruler. Want to ask why? Because from the mouth of Baichi, the invisible and invisible is kind. He saved the knights and defeated the dragon that ruled the darkness. What? You ask them clearly dead. How do they know that the invisible and invisible defeated the dragon of the Dark Lord? Isn't it inevitable that justice triumphs over evil? They must have been resurrected by the invisible god. If the kind, invisible, and formless loses to the dragon of the Dark Lord, then this world must have been destroyed, right? Because of this, the invisible has become the state religion that most people in the world believe in. All those who believe in Shillong have some mental problems, thinking about destroying the world, avenging the society, and trying to resurrect his neurosis. Well, in the follow-up mythology, the Dark Lord Dragon is said to be a dark, evil dragon that wants to destroy the world. Because of defeat, it has been killed, but the is immortal, so it needs to be resurrected through certain evil rituals. Wait, has become an excuse tool for people with sinister intentions. Shillong, who had left this world, turned into a dumbfounded expression when he discovered that there was still such a group of nerves worshipping him. I really want to go back and destroy them directly, but considering the agreement with the invisible dragon, he can only let him give up this idea. Returning to his own plane, Shillong introduced the invisible dragon to the brain demon and others. And the real race of this guy, Shillong has already learned about it, is the power dragon, one of the 3 legendary dragon species in the main material world. This is an ancient power dragon that is growing fast and approaching its limit. The strength is indeed tyrannical, but compared with the time dragon, which is also the 3 legendary dragons, there is a huge gap. The time dragon species has already transcended the boundaries of the legendary species, and it is not worse than many gods and evil creatures. With this old power dragon and the cheating star whale who did 1 in 5 in the Dragon Empire, Shillong was relieved. In the next time, the Dragon Empire continues their path of conquest, and Zero continued his training road. 1 3-level civilization, the Dragon Empire can already be easily pushed. At level 4, you can fight with the old power dragon, but it is not necessary. The Dragon Empire grew rapidly under this tone. In the first 100 years, the occupied planes have expanded from 21 to about 200. The expansion speed can be described as fast. Part 2. Of course, this kind of expansion is not smooth. There are too many planes that look like low-level worlds, and they have exploded power far exceeding their upper limit of strength. Some resisted for a while before being conquered by the Dragon Empire, while others resisted stubbornly. The internal calculation of the Dragon Empire requires that the cost is higher than the harvest after the conquest, so it will naturally give up directly. The first 100 years, overall it went well. Then is the second 100 years. The Dragon Empire has encountered a hard stubble, which is a plane with what they call a saint. The Empire of Dragon opened that plane and encountered one of the saints with great misfortune. This is an extremely powerful existence that can mobilize the power of heaven and earth. When the sage was fighting against the invasion, he fought against the old power dragon. As a result, he used the time as an exploration, and there was almost no ordinary human plane destroyed. The old power dragon fought the opponent for more than 20 days, and waited until the star whale appeared before it was considered to suppress the opponent. Was also escaped back to the original plane by the opponent. After weighing the benefits, the Dragon Empire directly abandoned this small plane. At this time, the number of Dragon Empire planes has exceeded 10,000. After continue to fight. But what I didn't expect was that the Saint plane actually launched a new plane where the Dragon Empire would continue to prepare for battle after the withdrawal of the Dragon Empire. A battle continued after decades. But at this time, there were 9 saints on the Saint plane. Naturally, it was not the Dragon Empire that could resist, and in the end, the Brain Demon contacted Dora Jinao, and Jinao contacted Shillong. Shillong at this time has gone through more than 200 years of growth. Over the past 200 years, some people have used the power of faith to fall asleep. Because of the growth discipline, the number of scientific research teams has been increasing, and the growth of Shillong has become 117. There is also an increase in planes, and his daily income of faith has also increased sharply. Although the quality has declined, the quantity is horrible. In this case, Shillong's strength has grown to an extremely terrifying level. The true strength may be enough to compare to the plutonium dragon that has grown naturally for 2,000 to 3,000 years. Body length is almost close to the extent of a star whale. The speed of flight in the starry sky of the universe is almost terrifying, reached close to 150 times the speed of sound. Such a terrifying Xylem appeared in front of the sages, and the 9 sages attacked him very indifferently. But in the end, these guys were all beaten by Shillong. That's right, 15 saints who were slightly weaker than the star whale for the last time, and the strongest who were able to beat 2 by 1, were beaten by a dragon from Shillong, was beaten to doubt life. Zero wanted to subdue them, but there were always a few hard bones. The first one was pinched to death by Zero. The saints still don't follow. The second one was directly swallowed by Xylem. The saints are a group of non-human creatures, a very special energy body, and Shillong is not disgusted. Found that the taste was good, and swallowed the pinched one. After, some of the saints were finally afraid. They chose to surrender, and for this reason, Shillong's Dragon Empire added 7 more advanced combat powers. But there is absolutely a problem with the loyalty of these people. Shillong will not reuse them, only treat them as thugs, and let them be the vanguard of the battle. With these 7 saints, the strength of the Dragon Empire will naturally increase again. Level 4 civilization has also been included in the scope of war. Among the Level 4 civilizations, there are already very powerful technological civilizations, can provide a lot of help to the technology of the Dragon Empire. After more than 200 years have passed, the Dragon Empire has encountered another dimensional legion whose purpose is to conquer the plane. They call themselves the Nightmare Army. The strength of the entire army is extremely strong. After a battle with the Dragon Empire, they recognized each other's strength, and finally nothing came of it. Continue to explore other infinite dimensions. After all, everyone is smart, and the dimension is approximately infinite. It is not because of insufficient resources. Naturally, there is no need to die. So until 50,000 years after the elder Li Nunglong is over. At this time, the old Li Nung dragon did not leave as he did at the beginning. Instead, he lived in the empire. However, it was already in a retired state, and basically no longer played in battle. The Dragon Empire did not persecute him. The Dragon Empire has developed into a huge empire that ordinary people can hardly imagine. The total number of conquered planes reached more than 5 million. The total population is too large to count, In fact, if calculated according to the initial increase rate, the number of planes occupied at this time will definitely be in the tens of millions, or even over 100 million. But unfortunately, the Wuxia World.online plan can never keep up with changes. Because of the increase in planes, the Dragon Empire has encountered more and more troubles. The most important thing is that the super high-end combat power that the Dragon Empire can use to open up the plane is actually not much, and the combat power like the Star Whale, even if 10,000 years have passed, is only 100. This greatly delayed the progress of the conquest. There are still some problems. For example, their empire has encountered many travelers from other planes. The strength of these guys is also legendary at last, and the strongest is even more than that of the starry sky whale, and Shillong must take the shot himself. They are not some peaceful masters. They often bring orderly destruction to the empire, which leads to conflicts. The Dragon Empire is huge, but it is impossible for all planes to develop as powerful. Like ordinary countries, some are particularly strong and developed, while some empires have gradually settled down and developed slowly after solving food and clothing, housing, and life safety. Even in order to maintain the rule of these backward areas, the empire issued some technological side armor for them. As long as these armors are worn, even if it is a dwarf, the goblin can have combat power above level 15. Of course, there are still some armors that have legendary combat power when worn, but there is only one remote plane of this kind of armor. Chapter 345. Remember in 1 second, and the person who has the legendary armor can only be the person in charge of that plane. Although the strength is good, the outcome of the legend is still unknown. Once war starts, it will inevitably cause damage to the plane. And if it is a demigod, many small planes cannot withstand their destruction. Among them, the plane traversers who are particularly irritable are going to destroy the world. According to statistics, the number of planes where the Dragon Empire has been destroyed by these plane travelers has exceeded 1,000. Because of their arrival, the people who have suffered setbacks and troubles are even closer to 10,000. Moreover, governance and management also need to spend a lot of manpower and material resources to cultivate their loyalty and so on. These all take time to digest slowly. There are also level 4 civilizations that are not lucky enough to encounter. The opponent is not weak, only the strongest main force can fight. The opposing side's territory is also numerous. Too long the front line will greatly increase the wartime. The Dragon Empire may even take years, or even decades to conquer certain planes. It is precisely because of so many problems that the Dragon Empire has developed into what it is now in more than 50,000 years. Although it cannot keep up with the initial plan, it is actually extremely incredible in the eyes of the master material plane gods who know how to do it. Miracle. The most important of these is Shillong. His strength is the main key to guarantee victory. The improvement of strength is like there is no valve, almost unlimited upward growth. Straightforwardly confused one of the pseudo-god level powerhouses who had dealt with other plutonium dragons, that is, the Star Sky Whale level powerhouse. The other party even suspected that Shillong was not a plutonium dragon at all, at least not a normal plutonium dragon, because the average plutonium dragon is not as exaggerated as he is. The upper limit of the plutonium dragon's power is right, but they also need to grow through countless years. How can Shillong be like this? Almost every 100 years, the strength will increase by a lot. Compared with the gods of the main material world, Zero was undoubtedly sitting on a rocket and hanging around. Most of those sad gods use the incarnations of gods when spreading their beliefs. Few of them dared to send out their real bodies. Because they left the kingdom of God, their combat power would be greatly reduced, and at the same time, they were afraid that the enemy gods would attack them. The efficiency was naturally slow, and it took a huge amount of time to build. At this time, Shillong was already extremely rich. 40,000 years ago, his income from faith was enough to support him in the accelerated growth of the power of faith every day. In addition to rewarding the Dragon Empire after waking up every 100 years at the beginning, and changing it to once every 1,000 years 40,000 years ago, he will only wake up when the situation of the battle is very anxious. But after these 50,000 years, the Dragon Empire encountered a stunned legion that looked like a plaster. They are also behemoths in countless dimensions, conquering things. Its name-burning legion. This is a weird army of iron-headed children, famous for their hard heads. After fighting with the Dragon Empire for a few years, the Dragon Empire realized the strength of the other side, and wanted to go back to each house and find each mother. But unexpectedly, this group of iron-headed children didn't give a chance at all, and didn't mean to want a truce, catching the Dragon Empire and smashing to death. Let the Dragon Empire give up one plane after another, until after giving up hundreds of them, the Dragon Empire's senior leaders were aroused to anger. The two sides started a formal fight. It's different from the previous small fight. Dragon Empire, numbered plane J10464, in the universe and stars. This is a fairly vast universe. The size of the entire universe is about 100 star systems. But at this time it seems a bit crowded. Each star system occupies a large number of troops, calculated in hundreds of billions. A warship of several kilometers, or even dozens of kilometers, traverses the stars and seas of the universe. On their shells, there is an image of a black dragon spreading its wings. These warships are full of technological synths, shimmering with bright silver metallic luster. There are also battle groups wearing battle armor, driving mechs, and fighter jets nearby. There are even more monsters and humans without any protection, standing in the starry sky. The head is a human-like monster, with a big head and armor. Around it is a fiery red dragon, a giant whale close to 3 kilometers in length, and other strange-looking creatures. The big head, needless to say, is the brain demon 50,000 years later. This guy has gone through 50,000 years, and his strength has not broken through the demigod. Duan Tianhao next to him is the same, still just the pinnacle among the demigods. There is a huge gap between demigods and false gods, which everyone in the Dragon Empire knows. It is impossible to break through without a strong bloodline and countless hours. Otherwise, Saffron, who had lived in for hundreds of thousands of years, would not remain just a demigod. In fact, Shillong originally wanted to use the power of faith to improve their strength, but unfortunately, the power of faith could not act on the demigods, allowing them to break through the false gods. The power of Dora's godhead really has its limits. According to Sillon's knowledge of some false gods, the strength of false gods is basically equal to the strength of those weakest true gods, leaving the kingdom of God, which is a qualitative leap forward. But as the main thing remember in 1 second the gods of the qualitative plane, in the kingdom of God and not in the kingdom of God, their combat power is extremely extreme. Those turtle-like gods are too scared to die. However, the brain demon and others are undoubtedly lucky. They have the giant dragon empire behind as a resource point. At this time, they were all wearing the most advanced armor of the empire, the armor of pseudo-gods developed at the expense of several planetary resources. The strength has naturally reached the level of a false god. On the other side, there are monster-like warships. Like big carrots, mysterious and strange power entangles from the battleship, allowing it to be free in the universe and stars. A pattern of burning flames was tattooed on the ship, surrounded by countless demon monsters like locusts. The heights of these demons range from less than 1 meter to more than 1 kilometer. They all wore a set of bizarre creature armors, like an octopus lying on their bodies. Darkness is strong. The leader is a tall demon with a height of nearly 10,000 meters and double horns above his head, surrounded by the flames of the dark hell. A pair of bat wings obscured the sky and sun, easily shielding a battleship underneath. In his hand, a burning giant sword that is more than 6 kilometers long is terrifying. The starry sky and the universe are burning all over it. Stupid burning legion. Your scorching force is just a quick shortcut to destruction. Take the benevolence of the great dragon empire as cowardice. Today, your burning legion will die here. At the forefront of the dragon empire, the brain demon in battle armor spoke out. The strange sound is like ripples, spreading rapidly. Let the demon army from 1,000 kilometers away hear clearly. Funny, the dragon empire is just another corpse that fell at the feet of our burning legion. Like your empire, our burning legion has already destroyed hundreds. The huge demon headed by the burning legion laughed. His laughter contained strange power, allowing the sound to spread quickly across the stars in the universe. The stars and seas in the universe hundreds of kilometers around shook slightly. Humble burning legion. You don't understand what kind of enemy you are fighting. Our Lord Silent Soderbergh is the true dragon of endless plains, and the greatest dragon king representing the eternal star of the universe. When he wakes up, everything in the world will tremble under his dragon wings. Live along. Part 2. Reverse death. Feel the despair and fear for the ignorance that you dare to provoke the dragon empire. The brain demon shouted. Ha 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 ha. Wanmi's demon's crazy laugh space shook incessantly. Ignorant mortals. With your barren heads, it is impossible to understand the greatness of the burning legion. The only true god? Silent Soderbergh? Ridiculous. In front of Sakras, the ruler of the burning legion, the gods are just a bunch of beasts that can be killed. You don't even need to dominate the shot. The right arm of the master me, Galakrond, is enough to destroy your god, your civilization. Roar. At the end, the huge demon Galakrond roared. The endless demons behind him roared. One by one screamed at the dragon empire, which was 1,000 kilometers away, and rushed forward. Humble Choppy, how can the greatness of our Lord be imaginable? The brain demon screamed, and the entire dragon empire began to attack. An unprecedented battle broke out between the two sides. On the side of the dragon empire, hundreds of millions of mecha fighters raised their beam rifles, and their robotic arms shot out light beams. Large swaths of the rushing demons are turned into fireworks in the universe. Mage troops, holding high-tech artifact staff, under the burst of spiritual energy. Thousands of kilometers away, the starry sky was shaking. The demons burst one after another, and their bodies were shaken to pieces. The space battleship stores energy, and the dark blue energy particle cannon cuts through hundreds of thousands of kilometers of the universe's starry sky, annihilating the demons. On the side of the Burning Legion, they were also unwilling to show weakness. Each demons held tridents, released beams and lightning in the starry sky, bombarding the Dragon Empire phalanx from a distance. Ripple in the starry sky, a great demon with space talents shuttled through the space, quickly came to the Dragon Emperor formation. Above the starry sky battleship, a sword stabbed on the battleship. Want to destroy the battleship. But immediately, the teleportation array will appear above the star warship. One by one, the Dragon Emperors wearing armor will appear and fight fiercely with the big devil. Farther away, there is a beholder whose eyeballs are more than 100 meters in diameter. They carry special lenses, and their eyes are sprayed with thunder beams, turning every Imperial soldier into fly ash. In the entire battlefield, more than one life fell every second. In terms of combat power at the lower level, the Dragon Empire far exceeds the demon army. After all, they are the power of technology, and the lower limit is very high. Roar! The starry sky whale rushed into the enemy formation and wanted to expand the results. With a roar, all the demons within 1,000 kilometers were decomposed into cosmic dust. Wearing a peculiar armor, Duan Tianhao in the shape of a dragon spouted a pillar of red firework, burning out the devil. The mental energy of the brain demon shook, squeezing all approaching enemies into mud. Pseudo-god level powerhouses take action. Each attack is enough to kill tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of powerful evil (0 remember in 1 second magic. Ha 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 ha. Resistance. The more you resist, the more excited I am. The more enjoyment. Ha 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 ha. The 10,000 meters demon headed by him laughed wildly and didn't care about the life and death of his men at all, because in his opinion, the victory of a battle has always been determined by his invincible demon. Seeing a huge battleship energy pillar with a diameter of more than 100 meters, after annihilating 1,000,000 demons, blasted towards it. The Wami devil does not evade. Directly swing the burning giant sword and slash it against the beam of light. In an instant, the flames entwined on the giant sword skyrocketed, turning into a horrible flame sword aura that was hundreds of kilometers long. The terrifying sword aura swept the starry sky, and the meteorites and life within a dozen kilometers were directly stirred into ashes by the powerful energy. The battleship that shot the beam was directly cut through the defensive cover and hull, bursting open. But the sword chi did not stop at all, and once again flew thousands of kilometers, blasting an unmanned belt in the dense starry sky, and it stopped. The power of horror makes everyone look at you. Seeing that the leader is so mighty, the demon army couldn't help shouting wildly. Behind the Wanmi devil, there are dozens of thousands of meters level false gods and demons. They pounced on the Dragon Empire, like a tiger into a flock, and began endless killing. Damn it! Stop them! The brain demon shouted angrily and immediately gave instructions. The strong pseudo-god of this side immediately greeted him. The starry sky began to vibrate endlessly, and within thousands of kilometers around the false gods, no creatures dared to approach. After fighting for several hours, the brain demon discovered that something was wrong. The death count of the Dragon Empire faction was gradually leveled after the high-end combat power of both sides joined. Although the opponent's pseudo-god powerhouse is not as many as theirs overall. However, the 10,000 meters demon headed by him is too strong. One move is totally unstoppable, and the 30 or so false gods who have been sent in the past have been suppressed. In just tens of minutes, 3 false gods fell. Ha 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 ha. Ants, you can't stop me. In front of the great Galakrond, all will be reduced to ashes. The Wami demon, or Galakrond, laughed constantly. Cleaving a sword aura, there is no life at all within the 100,000 kilometers around except the false powerhouse who wants to stop it. But these pseudo-god powerhouses didn't dare to resist their sharp edges. They just kept attacking Galakrond while avoiding attacks around. But Galakrond was too strong, and the flames of burning on its body resisted most of its damage. Only a small amount of damage fell on it, but it could not cause fatal damage at all. It was covered with blood, but Yu read www.yuukeyongshu.com but didn't care. The fighting posture with endless laughter is like a madman, and the many false gods who are fighting against him are even more restrained. For fear of being caught by the opposing party, they will be killed in exchange for injury. Damn it! The Brain Devil saw this situation in a hurry. Special combat instructions were immediately issued. In every star system, there is an intelligent planet that has received instructions. These are super planets that have been modified by the Dragon Empire. It is one of the highest achievements of Imperial technology. The resources required for each transformation are enough to hollow out 5 resource-rich planets. It's named Planetary Impactor. Dear, this chapter is over. I wish you a happy reading. Big smiley face. Chapter 346. Each planet is about 10,000 kilometers in diameter. They are all material planets, with a total weight of more than 40 trillion tons. Behind these planets are hundreds of millions of jets. With an order from the brain demon, all the planets began to vibrate. The billion-dollar ejector behind it suddenly ejected a flame column of dozens or hundreds of kilometers long. Rumble. Endless power drives the planetary riots, attracted the attention of all the dragon emperors and the demon army. Under the unbelievable gaze of the demon army, the entire planet slowly rushed towards the devil army. It seems slow, but because of its huge size, its speed is not slow. The moving distance per second is at least more than 1,000 kilometers. With such a huge volume, weight, and acceleration, the power it drives is terrifying. After seeing the movement of this planet, the Dragon Empire immediately uttered a loud cry. On the devil's side, some clever demons have already begun to escape, and some demons who were still confused in their minds rushed towards the planet that hit them. Puff, 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 the endless demons were caught by the planet's gravitational force as soon as they entered the planet within 1,000 kilometers. All the demons are like flies, slamming into the planets that hit them thousands of kilometers per second. Their bodies were instantly photographed into pieces of flesh and blood film thinner than paper. Oh hi! Some unbelieving demons used all their means and blasted towards the planet further away. Endless lightning, flames, and energy almost flooded the planet. The entire planet's ground kilometer of mud and rocks were all shattered. But this attack has no effect at all. Under the influence of the planet's own gravity, these rubbles are still falling rapidly, and the mass is not reduced at all. In the next moment, the demons attacking the planet turned into thin slices. All planets are meat grinders on the battlefield. Wherever they hit, there will be large demons shot to death. At this time, there were finally no demon heroes, and they began to flee. Until this planet hits another planet located in the demon camp. The surviving demons who were still fortunate before discovered in horror that two planets exploded at the same time. This is the only huge explosion before. The remaining waves cover the vicinity of the planet, with a radius of millions of kilometers. Under the shock wave of destruction, with just one blow, tens of trillions of demons were killed in 100 star systems. Let the demon army that cover the sky open a lot. The Dragon Emperor team cheered even more as the battle turned around and attacked more quickly. Do some tricks? Galakrond snorted angrily. The huge sword in his hand was swung more violently. After a hard blow, slay a false in the Dragon Empire. The other pseudo-god powerhouses of the horror took action, let alone dare not fight hard. Stupid creatures. Do you think you have one? The Burning Legion is endless, and now the battle has just begun. Along with Galakrond's roar, thousands of tens of thousands of meters high portals suddenly appeared behind the entire demon army, and groups of demon army continuously walked out of the portals. The one who appeared first was a unicorn demon with a height of over 10,000 meters and holding a flame whip. Endless dark energy is entwined around it, and its power is no longer under the 10,000-meter demon who no longer holds a sword. Galakrond, you incompetent fellow. You can't even defeat a group of mortals, and you dare to call yourself the right arm of the master? It makes me laugh. I am the only right-hand man in charge. Kilmond has this qualification. As soon as the whip-wielding demon appeared, he taunted the sword-wielding demon. Kilmond, this time the enemy is not the ant you encountered before. If you are not careful and killed by them, don't blame me for not reminding you. Galakrond, holding the sword, said coldly. Damn the Burning Legion. Is there still an existence at the same level as the sword demon? The eyelids of the brain demon and others watched. Such a powerful demon, comparable to the true god, unexpectedly appeared in two at once. This made the senior management of the Dragon Empire feel wrong, as well as feeling the reality. Even if the empire has developed for thousands of years, it still lacks too much for the old-style war forces. The brain demon looked gloomy and took out a small metal ball from his arms. Then the metal sphere disappeared. The two giant demons who were still chatting didn't pay attention to the people of the Dragon Empire at all. After all, the forces of the two demon legions were assembled, as well as the pseudo-god level 1,000-meter demons that were later added. The Burning Legion can already be said to be a sure victory. The devil's arrogant nature began to be revealed, and two 10,000-meter demons were mocking each other on the battlefield. But suddenly, the sword-wielding demon Galakrond's face changed drastically. A pure black sphere suddenly appeared beside it. Ah! A terrible scream came from the opponent's mouth, shaking the entire starry sky. Whether it was the Dragon Empire or the demons of the Burning Legion, they all looked at Galakrond in astonishment. I saw a dark ball suddenly appeared next to Galakrond's head and swallowed a small half of his head. And after swallowing half of his head, the black ball exploded directly. The terrifying energy engulfed Galakrond in an instant, and the pseudo-god powerhouses of the Dragon Empire, such as the Brain Demon, had already maintained a considerable distance from Galakrond. Just now they received a message from the brain demon. Seeing another scene, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but smile. This demon is dead. But immediately, the smiles at the corners of their mouths freeze. After the explosion, Galakrond was not dead. Even if it loses half of its head, even if it is covered in blood, most of the flesh is lost. The strong body reveals large pieces of bones, but it was still alive, staring at the brain demon and others with evil eyes. The fierce breath was terrifying. For a while, no one dared to attack. The Dragon Empire side and the demon side of the Burning Legion were a little surprised. Damn chopsticks! What did you do to the great Galakrond? Galakrond roared in anger. Only a little bit. Only a little bit he was going to be completely killed. This is the first time he has come into contact with death in such close quarters since he was born in 100 million years. At this time, the brain demon who was the instigator bit his teeth. He miscalculated. The one used just now is one of the highest inventions of the Dragon Empire, the antimatter bomb. Antimatter is a treasured matter produced by every plane and every star in the universe after the Big Bang of the first plane. Its preciousness is hard to describe in words. A small plane in a round sky does not even exist these substances. Only a plane with the universe and stars possesses a small amount of antimatter. This material is not only rare, but also extremely difficult to extract. With the background of the Dragon Empire, it was only 100 kilograms refined at this time. The 100 kilograms bomb was made into 2 antimatter bombs. The power of each one is enough to blow up a planet with a total mass of 30 trillion tons. Previously, I checked the power of antimatter on the internet. Some said that 25 kilograms can blow up half of the Earth, and some said that blowing up the Earth requires hundreds of billions of tons of antimatter. In other words, the antimatter bomb is not as powerful as we thought, and the planet is not as fragile as we thought, but it is better to give it a face and blow a wave. I thought that the antimatter bomb containing 50 kilograms was enough to kill the huge demon. What a pity. They still miscalculated the strength of each other. Even if there is an antimatter bomb, he has no chance. The demon had just been hit hard, and he would definitely not be as arrogant as before. Therefore, the stealth function installed on the antimatter bomb cannot be detected. Part 2. Stupid demon. If you don't want to continue to be attacked just now, get out of this plane for me. Otherwise, you will die here. The brain demon's expression remained unchanged and threatened. But Galakrond was not afraid at all, and after hearing the words of the brain demon, he became more violent. It kept roaring, and was full of endless anger. Damn it! You are provoking the great Burning Legion. Provoking the great demon Lord Galakrond. You will pay for it. Monoros roared. The portal among the demon army reappeared. Hundreds of thousands of meter portals appeared again. A 10,000-meter demon with a big knife on its head, like a giant elephant, stepped into the battlefield. The frenzied demonic spirit raged. After seeing Galakrond, it also laughed mockingly. Ha 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 ha. Galakrond, you sad trash. Look at what you look like now, and dare to claim to be the right arm of the master. Ridiculous. Only I can become one of the masters. Mammoth Troll Lord. Marices. Damn Marices. Hurry up and destroy everyone on this plane. Let them know the horror of the Burning Legion. Galakrond roared. If it was normal, Marices dared to talk to it like this, it would have to talk to each other well and learn from each other. But now it only has destruction and destruction in its heart. It just wants to see the so-called Dragon Empire mortals desperate under the demon army collapse. Use this to wash away the humiliation you have received. Ha 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 ha. As you wish, Galakrond. But after the victory of this war, I will account for at least 50% of the planes they have. Marices glanced at Kilmond and said consciously, 50%? Galakrond's voice was a little distorted. It also glanced at Kilmond, gritted its teeth and said, okay, you and Kilmond each account for 50%. I don't want 10%, but I now ask you to destroy them immediately. At the end, Galakrond roared again. As you wish, my friend. Marices and the demons behind him laughed and flew towards the Dragon Empire. The same goes for Kilmond on the other side. On the other side, the Dragon Empire side, as early as the third giant demon appeared, the brain demon felt that something was wrong. He finally started to contact Shillong through the brain. Originally, the brain demon didn't want to notify Shillong, because at this time, it was more than 10,000 years ago that Shillong needed to take a shot. After that, the Dragon Empire became stronger and stronger, and the brain demon believed that every time he encountered a problem, he had to ask Shillong, which was a manifestation of his incompetence as a subordinate. But now, the battle situation is clearly beyond his control. As a last resort, the brain demon began to appeal to the Doratzi brain body, which only the top of the Dragon Empire possessed, and above the nucleus of a certain star on another plane. Under the high temperature of tens of millions of degrees and the huge pressure, a huge dragon with golden light gleaming in pitch black was sleeping. He is too big. The body is about 100 kilometers long, surrounded by a colorful star ring. On the star ring, there are dozens of white planetary with a diameter of about 2 kilometers. The dragon is like a small star, and dozens of planets around it slowly revolve around him. Under the terrifying pressure of 300 billion times, the dragon slept calmly, breathing evenly. If someone is looking at the stars on a planet in this star system hundreds of millions of kilometers away, it is enough to clearly see the small black dots on the stars representing the dragon. This monster is naturally Shillong. When he was sleeping, he suddenly heard a voice in his mind. Shillong opened his eyes in a daze and muttered, "What? Is the time for 1,000 years up again? Are you going to deal with those troubles again?" Since tens of thousands of years ago, the Dragon Empire was on the right track and possessed countless powers of faith. Shillong has been in deep sleep, except for the necessary awakening every 1,000 years, to deal with some necessary things for the Empire, only to test his physical strength incidentally. No, the time has not come for 1,000 years. The successors, your subordinates, the armies of the Brain Demon, and the Dragon Empire are facing huge challenges. They have encountered an army of demons from other planes, the Burning Legion, and the battle is now extremely no. I ask you for support. The voice in his mind, that is, Dora Jinao said. Originally, Jinao had no name, but Shillong felt that it was weird that it was always called Jinao. After all, artificial intelligence was invented in the Dragon Empire. They can also be called Jinao, so in order to distinguish them, they have the name now Dora. Just let it inherit the name of its creator. This is Shillong's gift to it, to be with the creator, and to miss its creator all the time. Well, if Dora has feelings, she should be very grateful to him at this time, Shillong thought. Devil Army? Burning Legion? Shillong murmured softly. Even the Empire at this time can't match it. It seems to be a very difficult enemy. Dora, report the enemy's plane and the nearest fixed point coordinates. Planet number J10464, coordinates XXXXXX, XXXX, XXX, XXXX. You need your arrival Wuxia World. Online OK. Zero responded and broke out of the stars in an instant, portraying the starry sky in the universe teleportation circle. But in a moment, a huge portal close to 100 kilometers appeared, and Shillong got in. Simultaneously, on planet number J10464, when the demon army, led by two uninjured 10,000 meters demons, once again rushed towards the Dragon Empire. A starry sky portal over 100 kilometers long and wide appeared in the middle of the battlefield between the two. Both sides of the battlefield stopped their actions and looked at this portal in a daze. The next moment, a huge black dragon head protruded from it. Just looking at this dragon head, panic and fear will emerge from the heart. He is too big. A single head is bigger than Wami Demon. Chapter 347. This made all the people in the Dragon Empire and the demon army feel that perhaps this giant dragon could smother 3 10,000-meter demons in one mouthful just by opening its mouth. The two eyes are brighter than the star on one side, but the icy meaning inside makes all the demons tremble. The huge dragon slowly emerged from the portal. Seeing the giant dragon's huge body like a planet, surrounding the star rings and spheres around, all the demons took a breath. At the same time, the Dragon Empire side burst into violent cheers. This is a cheer representing victory. Their majesty appeared. That means this battle has come to an end. The ending is doomed. No one in No can match your majesty. Your majesty is absolutely invincible. This is the education that these Dragon Empire fighters have received since childhood. They believe it. Your majesty. The subordinate brain demon is incompetent. It disturbs your sleep. Your majesty, please punish. The voice of the brain demon echoed in the starry sky. Shillong just glanced at him, then glanced at the three-headed 10,000-meter demons who had grown dignified. Immediately he said, "All back. These guys are really not something you can deal with, and the next battle will be left to me. Just to try my current strength. To what extent?" His voice was very loud, directly resounding in a vacuum in a strange form. "Yes." After responding, the brain demon quickly retreated with the other false gods to clean up the brain-dead demons who had penetrated into the Dragon Empire and still found no abnormalities. "Your Excellency is the master of this army?" Marissa's, the huge demon who threatened to destroy the Dragon Empire, said vigilantly while laughing wildly before. "I don't know if it is an illusion. Seeing this dragon, it can't help but think of the master of the Burning Legion. That supreme being like a devil. Yes, sad ants. I think it is not easy for you to survive so far. If you are willing to give up resistance and return to the Dragon Empire, I can spare your lives." There is no joy or sadness on Shillong's face, and it seems that he is just telling an established fact. "Your Excellency is joking. The Lord of our Burning Legion is the greatest and powerful star titan Sacras, who has conquered tens of billions of planes. How can it be returned to you?" Marises pointed out his master and the forces behind it. 10 billion planes? Xylem murmured this sentence. Suddenly asked, since you have gone through the tens of billions of planes, you must have heard of the platinum dragon Bahamut, the evil dragon mother Tiamat, and the lord of the dawn Luashanda, right? Sorry, there are so many planes that our demon army fought, and we can't remember these so-called gods. Really? I haven't even heard of this. Useless rubbish, let's go to death. Shillong finished speaking. Suddenly, he picked up a white sphere nearly 10 kilometers in diameter from his star ring. Before it was too, modify it here. When the sphere flew to Shillong's claw, he covered the claw with his infinite repulsion. Then flick the white ball. In the next moment, the white ball disappeared. Almost in an instant, he shot in front of Marices thousands of kilometers away. Marices wanted to hide, but it suddenly found that above the entire white sphere, there was incredible suction pulling its body, which caused its body to pause slightly. It was this meal that the white ball hit Marices directly. Boom. The 10,000-meter level Marices burst on the spot. It's like a big watermelon that the defendant hits quickly. Neither the minced meat nor the blood escaped. They were firmly absorbed on the white ball. After the entire white ball hit Marices to death, it still rushed through the demon army at a speed of nearly 2,000 kilometers per second. Nothing, life can survive in front of it for 0.0001 seconds. The entire star system was severely blasted out of a blank road. It wasn't until the sphere was about to fly out of the star system that Sillin stretched out his paw to recall the white ball. On Lujin, it is inevitable that a large number of demons suffer. Pong. The white ball fell straight into Shillong's claws, and the shock of the shock began to spread. Compared with the previous planetary striker, the two planets collided with a more terrifying power burst. Shillong used gravity to counteract the shock wave that hit the Dragon Empire. The shock wave blasting towards the devil directly shook all the other demons within tens of millions of kilometers near Shillong, excluding the two 10,000-meter demons. Even those two 10,000-meter demons, because they were too close, were shocked by bleeding in their mouth and nose. They looked at Shillong with horrified eyes. How about? My ball is not bad, right? This is a sphere made of white dwarf star material. By the way, do you know white dwarfs? The average weight per cubic meter is about 10 million tons. The spheres around me have been specially processed by me, and the density is about 1,000 times that of ordinary white dwarfs. I named it plutonium star, and this one has a diameter of about 10 kilometers and a total weight of about 60 to 70 trillion tons. Shillong's mouth opened slightly, and he was very happy to introduce the two demon monarchs. But this sounds in the ears of the two demons, not pressing the brain to open the skull. The two huge demons were stunned. As the great devil who survived for hundreds of millions of years, although they didn't read much, their age was there. I still understand some of the knowledge on the technology side. What is a white dwarf? It is a star with low luminosity, high density, and high temperature. Because of its white color and small size, it was named a white dwarf. From the red giant among the stars through some abnormal changes. It is a famous superdensity solid in the universe star sky. The artifacts of the powerful true gods of certain planes are made by white dwarfs. Well, including the weapon they dominate, the blade named Lahir Demon Sword, is also made of white dwarfs and some other god-level materials. That is a famous magic sword in the heavens and 10,000 realms, enough to smash the true with one sword. Why do you tell me that the broken ball in your hand is 1,000 times denser than the white dwarf? Now I'll give you another chance to choose, surrender, and give the plane coordinates of Bahamut, Tiamat, and other gods, or die in front of me. Xylem said again. The other two huge, surviving demons looked at each other, asking them to betray the master. They don't have the guts to want them to die. They were unwilling, so they had to bite the bullet and give it a try. You can rest assured. Our burning legion has crossed the heavens and worlds for tens of millions of years, and has been sitting on a plane of over tens of billions. There must be the plane coordinate information you need, but we may need some time to find it. Kilman bit his head. Lead the way, I will go with you. Shillong said, not afraid of others cheating him. Because he is so strong. At this time, it is so powerful that Dora's brain cannot evaluate it. Far beyond its creator, Dora. At this time, if he wants to, even stars can explode. Yes, yes. Your Excellency, wait a minute. Kilman wiped the sweat from his forehead and opened a huge portal. Then he made a pleased gesture to Shillong. Shillong slowly flew over and stopped when he immediately stepped in. He glanced back at the demons in other galaxies. The meaning is self-evident. Kilman naturally understood what Sillin meant. It turned its head and looked gloomy at the demons still fighting in other galaxies, and immediately shouted in place. His voice was conveyed to the ears of the fighting demons in other galaxies through special means. You bastards! Stop me all! As a demon, how can you be so devoid of merit? Don't you want to fight if you haven't seen others? Still fight? Do you think they are all the same as you? No father or mother. They still have children. The child is still at home waiting for them to cook, wash and cook. They still have to work tomorrow. FAK. A bunch of idiots. Kilman yelled on the public channel. Part 2. A group of demons were stunned in an instant. They still haven't figured out what happened. But watching the monarch-level demon like Kilman was so annoyed. Most of them began to stop and retreat, and only a small part of the stubborn people were killed by the Dragon Empire. And Kilman also found these daunting demons, and was even more angry. Look, what do you look at? Why don't you go back to your home? Where did it come from and go back? Really? I have been teaching you to read more. Be meritorious. Look at you like this, no future. You deserve to be cannon fodder forever. The demons look at me, I look at you, and finally, under the leadership of some kilometer and 100-meter level demons, slowly withdraw from the plane. Seeing this, Shillong nodded. But he still did not rush into the portal, but glanced at Kilman beside him. In an instant, Kilman screamed, and saw that his entire arm was screwed off by an invisible force. The arm was floating in the stars. Goo, Your Excellency, what do you mean by this? Kilman sweats profusely. This guy, isn't he going to change his mind? Kill me? Shillong did not answer immediately, but once again used the same method to another giant demon, Galakrond. This big demon was miserable before, and now it has recovered 7 or 88, but compared to before, its aura has weakened a lot. Losing his arm again at this time was even more painful, but it didn't dare to show it, and could only show Shillong a smile that was uglier than crying. Attach your consciousness to your arm and go in to find the way. It shouldn't be difficult for you demon powerhouses. After exploring the road, go in with me. Soren said. Although he thinks his strength is almost invincible, certain celestial bodies possessed by certain large planes can still cause damage to him, or even kill him. That is a neutron star, and a black hole. Almost infinite gravity is enough to crush everything into nothingness. Although knowing that the portal is unlikely to be built directly near this kind of star, Shillong felt that it was necessary to be careful. After all, it is a plane army that has developed far beyond the Dragon Empire. Ming. Understand, the two huge demons said cautiously. Attached part of the mind to the arm. After entering the portal, it came out soon. There is nothing unusual. Then, Xylem pinched a 10,000-meter demon with one paw, went straight into the portal, and disappeared. Ectopic surface. This is a world with cosmic stars. On a certain planet, this is divided into two areas. An area is lined with tall buildings, and a group of humanoids live. They go to get off work normally, play normally, and give birth to children normally. But there are many abnormalities in it. There are basically no middle-aged and elderly people over 50, and many adults have a little depression on their faces. The older you are, the more depressed you are. On the other side, it is incompatible with the modern background. It's like the of Sun Luo. The sky is dark red, and there are huge magic ponds in every area. Countless demons roar and dance above the magic pond. There were also batches of demons escorting humanoids over 50, regardless of men or women. The men and women who were being escorted were afraid, crazy, and desperate. They were finally thrown into the devil's pond. In a stern wailing sound, they seemed to have entered the sulfuric acid, and their bodies began to melt. Instead, strange-looking demons were born in the magic pond. When the humanoid disappeared completely, that demon will be fully formed, opening his eyes and roaring excitedly in the magic pond. This made the middle-aged and elderly humanoids on the shore even more afraid, but they could not resist. In the end, he can only step into the footsteps of the predecessors and become a terrifying demon. Above such a terrifying world, a huge portal appeared out of thin air. It shades the sun overhead, leaving the entire pool and nearby demons in shadow. This made the demons very unhappy and roared at the portal in the sky. Until a dragon head emerged from the portal, all the noise came to an abrupt end. The demons seemed to be choked by fate. Only the creaking bass lingered in their throats. They were silent, watching the dragon slowly emerging from it, and on the claws of the dragon, being pinched like a baby chicken. One of them was their monarch, the supreme demon, Lord Kilman. How is it possible? Lord Kilman, who can kill even a god, was carried by a dragon? Looks very scared? Some demons with a high IQ even suspected that there was a problem with their eyes and rubbed them fiercely. After rubbing for 10 seconds, they looked at it as before, which made them completely stunned. Your Excellency Wuxiaworld.online has arrived. Here is one of my subordinates. It controls tens of thousands of planes of information. Please allow me to ask. Kilman said cautiously. Go ahead. Shillong responded. Watching Kilman fall quickly, he flew to a demon temple dozens of kilometers away and muttered with one of the demon of kilometers away. And that kilometer demon suddenly began to operate on a strange item for a long time. The two demons murmured again. Finally, Kilman looked ugly and returned to Shillong and said, Sorry, the information this plane holds is not comprehensive. you may be able to go to the next plane with me. Please believe that the strength of our Burning Legion will definitely be able to find the plane coordinates you want. Chapter 348. No? Shillong said to himself. No joy or anger can be heard in the voice. But falling in Kilman's ears was tantamount to a thunderbolt in the sky, and its body was shivering. The death of Marices is still vivid. Never mind if you don't have it, Xylem said. After all, I am not a demon like you. I am a reasonable dragon. Don't worry, I will not kill you. As soon as he said his voice, Kilman let out a breath. But immediately its heart was mentioned again. I saw this terrifying dragon next to him, once again ingested one from the asteroids surrounding him, then lightly bounced towards the planet below. Boom! The white plutonium ball blasted fiercely on the planet below and pierced under the Earth with lightning speed. In an instant, the white ball penetrated the star core of the planet. Endless light and heat, and explosions on the planet under the shock wave itself. All the demons on the planet, as well as the humanoid creatures that surrendered, all died. Nothing to live. Two huge, 10,000-meter demons watched in horror as the impact of the planet's explosion rushed towards them. Once this almost zero-distance impact is implemented, they will definitely be hit hard. But at the moment they were frightened. An invisible force directly helped them offset the impact of the planet's explosion. That terrifying explosion, like a grand firework, bloomed in front of the two demon monarchs. Dominate again. This is really exciting. The two demon monarchs looked at each other, and both saw fear in each other's eyes. It was not until the end of the firework appreciation that the planetary ball called the plutonium star returned to the dragon's claws again. Don't be afraid. I won't hurt you, look. Even in this kind of big explosion, I didn't hurt you at all, did I? The words of the dragon rang again in the ears of the two demon monarchs. They couldn't help their mouths twitching, but they were stronger than the devil, and Kilman could only cry in gratitude. Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellency. If it weren't for Your Excellency, the little demon might have died in the explosion just now. Your Excellency is really a kind dragon. Even those good gods are not as good as your case. Where? I just rescued a planet of life that was enslaved by demons. Looking at their depressed appearance, it's obviously unbearable to be oppressed by your demons. Seeing that they don't have the guts to resist, only a dragon of pure goodness like me can help them. Soren finished speaking, sighed. Long's face was full of sorrow. When the two demons heard the words, they looked at each other, and finally Kilman said, Your kindness amazes the devil. Let me thank you for those liberated souls, the great dragon. No, this is all I should do. Kilman was speechless. One dragon and two demons continued to shuttle through the portal, passing through hundreds of them. But without exception, these guys did not have the plane coordinates that Shillong wanted. And Shillong also let the two demons watch the fireworks hundreds of times. Until this time, the two demons were already sweating profusely. Because Shillong's complexion was already gloomy, he was playing with the plutonium planet in his paws and looking at the planet fireworks that was blasted into powder in front of him. Shillong's cold voice sounded, This is the 321st plane. Don't you want me to run with you one by one? Tell me in the end? Is this kind of game fun? No. Don't misunderstand. Fight tens of billions of planes. We must have some relevant information on the planes you need. But we are just one of the many who dominate. The resources under control are limited, and only when you dominate can you control all the resources. Then take me to meet your master. See? Master? The two demons trembled. Dominator Sacres is still at war with a powerful, anomalous plane, and there is no escape at this time. Bring the powerful dragon in front of you that is an enemy and not a friend, in case a direct conflict with the ruler breaks out, affecting the ruler's battle. Both of them will be slaughtered. Why? No? Sylem's complexion became more gloomy. The two demons exchanged eye contact again, and finally each swallowed their saliva and said, Win, of course. Your Excellency, please come with us. At this time, they had no choice. They had to lie to themselves. This was not considered a seller, but just brought a friend dragon to see the master. This Yulong just came to ask for directions. That's right, it's just that. Some unknown plane, between the stars of the universe. This is an extremely advanced plane, and the entire universe is larger than the blue star's Milky Way. There are at least 400 billion star systems in it. And this world is a god-level civilization above the 5th level that has fought the Burning Legion dominance for thousands of years. Within civilization, there are many gods. Originally, this civilization already occupied 80% of the resource planet of the galaxy. However, after the appearance of the Burning Legion, the resources of the entire Legion were reduced by 5% in a short millennium, and at least billions of star systems fell into the hands of the Burning Legion. But the Burning Legion was still not satisfied. Their desires are endless. The overwhelming army of demons is constantly attacking, as if toward a virus, constantly expanding, fighting, conquer, assimilation. Everything about them is advancing according to this template. The battle has never stopped in this universe. At this time, a certain star system, belonging to the Devil's Planet, has blood pools everywhere. But there are no more creatures to transform. The whole planet is extremely silent, miserable, and like a death star. There are only a few hundreds of demons guarding magic pawns in different locations. The other demons have all gone into frontline battles. Kilmand naturally understood the situation and directly called a demon to ask where Sakras ruled. The inquired devil tremblingly answered the general situation. Afterwards, Shillong and the two huge demons moved around again dozens of times before they came to the front line of war where Sakras was. Here is an extremely vast star system. A red giant star, tens of millions of times the size of the sun. The entire star system is covered by red glow. Large swaths of tiny planets revolve around it. Several creatures like ants are fighting fiercely. It is an exaggeration to say that it is an ant, because among them is a firstborn double-horned demon giant, 1,000 kilometers tall. There are two luminous spheres surrounding the giant. The two luminous spheres control the surrounding planets to continuously hit the giant, or shoot out a series of colorful cosmic rays to bombard the giant. Every planet has half the diameter of a blue star, carrying unparalleled power. But every time he flies in front of the giant, he will be chopped up with a sword. The violent explosion was just a breeze for the giant. The cosmic rays blasted the giant's body, making it hiss, but the interval between the cosmic rays' bombardment took a lot of time. In the entire huge star system with both sides as the battlefield, no demons dare to approach. They crisscrossed the star system, and the aftermath of the battle spread throughout the star system. Your Excellency, the giant in front is the master of the Burning Legion, Sakras. The other two should be the strongest on this plane. Very good. Shillong nodded, grabbed the two demons and flew towards the battlefield. At this time, Shillong's speed is close to 10,000 kilometers per second. What is this concept? The speed of light is only 300,000 kilometers per second, but Shillong has already reached 1/30th of the speed of light. 2,000-meter demons were in Shillong's claws, and everything around him became one piece, and he couldn't see anything clearly. They are simply unbelievable. Some creatures can reach this level by relying solely on their own speed. This is a real speed, without any technology or magic, the speed of space jumps and teleportation. Part 2. In just 10 minutes at this exaggerated speed, Shillong crossed a distance of tens of millions of kilometers and came to the front of the battle between the two sides. Within 1,000 kilometers, both sides in the battle were startled by the sudden intruder. The two luminous spheres instantly stopped working and began to retreat. Because of the relationship between the two 10,000-meter demons, they thought Shillong was a reinforcement for the Burning Legion. Sakras was also taken aback for a moment. He looked at the two men who were pinched by the little dragon in front of him like little chickens, and he felt a little strange. Kilmand, Galakrond, this is not the battlefield you should come to. Sakras tentatively said, The Lord. The Lord. This Mr. Shillong is the friendly dragon we met when we conquered the alien planes. After learning about our Burning Legion, he admired the Lord's erudition and qualifications very much. I want to ask you about the coordinates of a certain plane. Oh, admire my erudition and qualifications? Sakras' expression was grave. Although these two demons sound good, Sakras doesn't believe it. Ask why. The two idiots and demons were pinched by the dragon on their paws, and their bodies kept shaking. This is so obvious that you are afraid and threatened. He even brought the enemy to me. Damn it. Too embarrassing trash. We have never been the only one to bully others. No one else bullies us. You two are so cowardly, you no longer deserve to be a member of my Burning Legion. As Sakras said, the great sword in his hand suddenly swung. A cross-shaped slash attacked the dragon violently. The flame of terror with a diameter of more than 10,000 kilometers seemed to be the only one in the starry sky. Crushed all the planets close to it. And cosmic rays. Cross-sword aura appeared in front of Zero, and the two demons almost instantly, locking them completely blocked their escape. No, Lord Sakras, you can't do this. I'm the Demon Lord. I am the Burning Legion. Blood has bled for you. You can't just kill me like this. Galakrond shouted. On the other hand, Kilmand had expected it. His complexion had not changed much. What a warm welcome ceremony. Lord of the Burning Legion, Sakras, I feel your enthusiasm. Shillong said. Then I took a plutonium star, and suddenly it popped out. Boom. The plutonium star was faster than before, approaching 4,000 to 5,000 kilometers per second, and immediately hit the middle of the cross slash. The tiny plutonium star collided with the huge cross slash. Just when Sakras sneered at the corner of his mouth, thinking that the other party was overwhelming, a terrible roar came from the intersection of the two. That little sphere actually smashed his sword energy directly, and the small ball is just a small hole in the middle. It's really small, only tens of meters. The fragments are still firmly attached to the entire sphere. Hit Sacras. Sacras raised the Excalibur in his hand, and the sword was crossed in front of him. Pung exploded. A huge force came from the place of the attack, almost making him take a step back. Just when he was a little angry about this, I saw a dozen orbs around the little dragon, blasting straight towards him one after another. Pung, 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 pung. The Excalibur blocked these spheres one by one. It is different from the ball that was weakened by the cross-sword chi before. Every subsequent ball is incredibly powerful. His arm was numb. It takes 10 steps to stabilize the figure. Afterwards, those little flew back to Shillong one by one and continued to spin slowly. At this moment, Sacra's complexion became extremely solemn. This little dragon is very powerful, at least stronger than the previous 2 light balls. Galakrond, Killman these 2 idiots. After this battle is over, I will draw out their soul fire and burn them on the red giant star. It's amazing. It can actually block my plutonium ball. Dominated by the Burning Legion, Sacras deserves its reputation. Shillong exclaimed. In the previous continuous bombardment, even a huge planet with a diameter of 100,000 kilometers would be bombed. But this giant can resist. The strength is really strong. Humph. Sacras, who was praised, let out a cold snort of irritation. When did his great Star Soul Titan, Lord of the Burning Legion, need a dragon to praise? This kind of praise is in his ears, and it is no different from humiliation. Sacras wanted to fight back, but because Shillong and him had already started, the hostile relationship between the two was discovered by 2 white luminous spheres. At this time, Bai Guang stopped retreating, but instead forced it towards Sacras. There are great plans to besiege Sacras together. Unknown strong man, thank you for your help. Let us eliminate the evil master in front of us and put an end to his sinful life. The sound of the photosphere reverberates throughout the star system. Its voice sounded like a very gentle female voice. Destroy me? Ridiculous. Sacras is the strongest titan. The gods are trembling under my feet. Even if there is an additional dragon, it will only slightly delay your death. Sacras proudly said that he didn't think any existence could beat him. He is the strongest Star Soul Titan, is undefeated. Shillong sneered at this and did not get angry and continued to attack. Sorry, I came here just to inquire about the news. I heard that the Burning Legion had conquered tens of billions of planes. I don't know about the Platinum Dragon Bahamut, the evil dragon, Mother Tiamat, and the gods like Lord Roshanda of the Morning Light. Heh, even if I have heard of it, why should I tell you this little dragon? I have been working in Sacras all my life. Why do I need to explain to you and other ants? Lord of Dawn, Luoshanda? The female voice said again. There seemed to be some confusion in her voice. This name is so familiar. Oh, have you heard of this name? Shillong's eyes lit up. It should be. You let me check my memory bank. Maybe I can find some related memories. After the white light female voice finished speaking, her voice fell silent for a moment. Then he said, Is it the Mother of the Earth, Chang Tai's partner? Yes, it's Chang Tai's concubine. You actually know him? Shillong was overjoyed, and then couldn't help laughing. Ha 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 ha. Finally. I finally found you. I can finally go home. Mom, and Armin is waiting for me. I will be back soon. Do you want to go to the plane where Mother Earth God is? Of course. This is what I have been waiting for 50,000 years. What I look forward to every day. Understood. Although the Earth Mother and I intersect on a tiny plane, the power of the Earth Mother God has already been left there. I reverse this and can indeed find a way to the other plane. Although I am willing to help you, you have also seen the plane where I am. At this time, I am facing the invasion of the Burning Legion. The female voice in the white light stopped talking. I understand what you mean. Silem's expression was straightforward. Evil Burning Legion, constantly provoking and standing in the different planes. Even my dragon empire has been invaded by them. Now that the leader is in front of you, let us join hands to eliminate the sinful life of the leader of the Burning Legion. Thank you for your help. Justice will win. The white light female voice said happily. The two talked about cooperation in this way, and Sacras, who has been on the side, just snorted, It's just one more reptile. I actually want to come and die. Then let me send you to die together. When the voice fell, Sacras immediately moved his legs and ran towards Shillong in the void. Every step is a distance of nearly 1,000 kilometers. In just one step, he came to the top of Zero, and by Zero's entire body was slashed at him, and Shillong seemed to be prepared. The moment he rushed towards him, he quickly flew to the right, avoiding the giant sword, and dozens of white dwarfs joined together and quickly blasted towards Sacras' face. Orbit, 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 orbit. Part 3. The white dwarf kept hitting Sacras' greatsword, making him keep his hind legs. The shock wave that impacted was extremely terrifying. At this time, Silem had been put down and fleeing desperately. The two 10,000-meter demons who were preparing to stay away from the battlefield were vomiting blood again and again. But they didn't dare to delay at all. They had to leave the battlefield as soon as possible, and then immediately launched a teleportation and escape in a stable place. Otherwise, you will inevitably be shaken to death by the aftermath. This battle is definitely the ultimate decisive battle of all planes and the highest creatures. It is no longer the demon monarchs who are comparable to the junior gods that can intervene. A dozen plutonium stars had all hit, and Shillong was photographed back to this gap. Sakras wants to move closer to the front and continue the attack. But the two white of light on the other side are not idle. One of them shoots out terrifying cosmic rays, slamming into Sakras' face, and the other is directing several planets that are directly at least thousands of kilometers away, and they collide head-on to each other. Sakras did not panic in the face of such a siege, and he quickly swung out huge sword auras in his right hand. Chop all the oncoming planets, and at the same time, his left arm swings sideways, blocking the cosmic rays from another ball of light that shoots at him. This beam contains extremely powerful kinetic energy, heat energy, and explosive energy. While constantly repelling Sakras, his arm was continuously burned by explosions and heat. But on the contrary, as soon as he is hurt, he will be restored to the original condition if he is injured within 1,000th of a millisecond. It's useless. Sakras is undefeated. Sakras roared, two blood-colored light beams shot out of a pair of huge blood-red eyes and blasted toward the white light ball that used cosmic rays to attack him. Bump! The white ball of light burst instantly, but immediately he condensed his body thousands of kilometers away and used color and cosmic rays to hit Sakras' blood-colored beam. The rays of the two stalemate in the cosmic starry sky. But the battle did not stop at all, and dozens of plutonium planets with amazing power in Shillong's claws once again attacked Sakras. Pong! With just one blow, Sakras' forehead, who was caught off guard, was slightly sunken. With his head tilted, the cosmic rays of the white ball of light scratched on Sakras' head. Suddenly, only bones were left to blow up his entire head. Eyeballs burst. The dark soul fire was burning, and his actions were still not hindered in the slightest. With a roar, the whole body turned into a cosmic tornado. The divine sword danced crazily in his hand, and thousands of horrible sword auras shot in all directions. In an instant, all attacks against him were blasted away. The white ball of light was also blasted away. Even Shillong couldn't dodge under such a dense attack, but he didn't need to evade. Dozens of plutonium block in front of you, spinning, turning into an indestructible star shield. Stand still under the sword energy storm that can tear everything apart. The terrible explosion lasted for several minutes before it stopped. At this time, Sakras' head had already recovered, and when Sakras stopped attacking, the two white of light also recovered. Whether it is Sakras or the white ball of light, they have shown their terrifying recovery ability. This is the characteristic of most high-ranking top creatures, immortal. It is as difficult as heaven to kill. Shillong added two light and besieged Sakras, occupying an absolute advantage, constantly tearing the opponent's body, but the opponent's immortality is too strong, and almost the entire endless starry sky is supplying him. His energy is endless Wuxia world. Online, no matter how many injuries he receives, he will recover in an instant. All the attacks just made him look embarrassed. I am undefeated. Ha 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 ha. Although Sakras has been in the role that was severely beaten, he enjoyed the battle very much, and the flames of entwined with him became more vigorous with the battle. The starry sky energy all over his body began to riot, making his combat effectiveness increase instead of decreasing. The battle lasted for several days, and Shillong did not help the opponent, which made him feel a little impatient. Although he did not suffer any injuries, and also because of his super resilience, he did not consume much energy. But he has to return to the main material plane to meet Armin and Viola's mother. How can you keep spending with this idiot? Shillong immediately got rid of the battlefield and turned into a beam of red gold, rushing towards the red giant star. Chapter 349. Your Excellency, are you trying to escape? The white light female's surprised voice appeared in Shillong's ear. The two established a spiritual channel. No, I just want to end this boring battle. I don't have time to spend with you. Shillong replied. Ending the battle? It seems impossible. The battle between the highest gods can never be ended in a few days or nights. It may take 10, 100, and 1,000 years. Only a long battle can consume each other almost endlessly. The supernatural power to win the final victory. That's just your battle. I don't like this kind of long battle. I want to use my method to completely end this battle. After Xylem said this, he has entered the red giant. Compared with the red giant, his extremely huge body is like dust, almost invisible. But his next move made him even more dazzling than a red giant. He opened a huge mouth full of fangs, and a red golden flame surged in his mouth. Right in front of his mouth, a small red gold ball suddenly appeared. This orb kept gathering the fusion fire within Shillong and the flame power of the red giant star. With the blessing of the power of Shillong's faith, The two began to merge and strengthen perfectly. The giant red-gold flame ball began to roll and expand. From the first 100 meters to 1 kilometer. 10 kilometers, 100 kilometers. 1,000 kilometers. 10,000 kilometers. 100,000 kilometers. Swelling to such a degree, it only takes less than a minute to tightly. It became a small sun far beyond the size of Shillong, a huge planetary level. Shillong exhaled a repulsive breath from the huge mouth. The little sun was like the sky falling, pressing down on the three gods and demons in battle. Its hot light made both parties in the fight notice this anomaly. The white light group immediately began to retreat, and even the energy contained in this little sun felt shocked and didn't want to be affected at all. But Sakura snorted and looked at the two retreating white fairways contemptuously. Cowardly fools! You are so timid. You don't deserve a fight with me. You don't deserve to rule this plane. Watching this little sun slowly approach, Sakura's roared, and the magic flames all over his body burned to the extreme. He was like a fighting god, and the starry sky trembled. The divine sword in his hand also began to radiate, and he swung it down with all his strength, and a sword aura of tens of thousands of kilometers was thrown out, slamming on the little sun. The sword chi smashed straight into the sun, but after entering it, the sword chi began to fade. It's like plastic meets extremely hot iron juice. The terrifying sword energy is actually burned like a real thing. Ha 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 ha. This is interesting. This way you have the meaning of being conquered by me. Sakura's laughed wildly after the initial astonishment. The magic flame on his body rushed thousands of kilometers. A huge planet was formed with humility, and Sakura's was completely wrapped in it. In the last roar, he rushed into the little sun, tightly just the outermost layer. This little sun has a high temperature of hundreds of millions of degrees. This high temperature is undoubtedly strong enough to burn almost everything in the world. But this is nothing to Sakura's. The phantom guarding him directly resists all the heat waves. Sakura's did not stay at all, stepped out a few steps, and continued to run forward. If you want to break this little sun, you must break the star core inside. There is the source of everything. But when he really stepped inside, he discovered that this little sun was much more powerful than it really was. The innermost temperature is as high as tens of billions of degrees. Shit la la, the entire planetary phantom is smoking, twisting, and wanting to be burned. Sakura's within the planetary shadow felt a heat wave rushing towards him. But this still did not stop him from destroying everything and slashing the little sun. Smash it with all your strength. Boom! It's like a plutonium star chopped before. Sakura shook his body, and the tiger's mouth was slightly paralyzed. This abnormal state came sooner, but it was faster, and he recovered in just 1/10,000th of a millisecond. He stared at the core of the little sun. There have already appeared a series of huge cracks, like a cracked eggshell. The inside is redder than the outer shell, and the more dazzling red-gold light is surging, as if wanting to break out of the shell. Dangerous breath and energy are surging, but Sakura's is fearless. When he wanted to continue slashing, the cracked eggshell burst instantly. The planetary phantom was melted in an instant. The endless heat wave drowned him completely, let him involuntarily let out a scream of earth-shattering. Two luminous white spheres watched the fireball exploding to hundreds of thousands of kilometers. The entire space of the starry sky was about to be burned, and everything inside was crazily distorted. Even from the edge of the fireball, the white ball of light can feel the high temperature of hundreds of millions of degrees. They can hardly imagine how terrifying the temperature in the center is, but guess at least hundreds of billions of degrees. Listening to Sakura's scream, the two light groups were inexplicably joyful. The evil demon ruled. Will there be today? The screams continued, and the screams were exceptionally loud. Even when the fire wave completely ended, the screams did not stop. Appearing in front of Shillong and the two of light was an evil spirit like a wax figure. Most of his head melted away. The flesh and blood of his body had long since disappeared, and strands of muddy gray matter stuck to the smaller half of the skeleton. Even the Excalibur that he had been holding tightly in his hand melted most of the time, dripping with crimson juice. Although he looks miserable now, his traumatized body is still slowly repairing. The bones are growing. Flesh is reshaping. He is like the darling of the universe, and it won't be long before it will be fully recovered. As the top predator in the endless plain, its invincible strength is evident. My Sakura's is undefeated. You can't beat me. Waiting for your ending is already doomed. Sakura's soul roared. The planetary phantom appeared again, guarding his body. Several tentative offenses of the white ball could not be broken. This makes them a little anxious. This disgusting guy is too strong. If it is one-on-one, a white ball of light will almost be beaten, and only two of them can hold each other. But this caused other creatures on the plane to suffer huge shocks and injuries. The almost endless army of demons furiously attacked this plane, and they couldn't kill it no matter how much. The disgusting demon ruler doesn't care about the death of those demons at all, and floods this star sea with endless crowds of tactics. As long as the first evil is eliminated, this protracted battle can be completely ended. But if you want to kill the in front of you, you don't even know the white ball of light. In the eyes of Liang Guangqiu, Sakura's is a disgusting dogskin plaster. No compromise, no retreat, just want to die with you, either kill them or be killed by them. I really don't know why this creature can live to this day. Become the powerhouse of the endless plane. This is not reasonable at all. Unkillable, unable to retreat. The two of light were in a dilemma for a time, and they could only surrender to Shillong again. This attack made them realize that the dragon in front of them has an unimaginable destructive ability. Your Excellency, what other tricks do you have? We must eliminate him as soon as possible. Otherwise, when he recovers, we will be caught in an endless loop. I am afraid that there will be no time to bring you back to the original plane. You don't need to talk about it. My attack is not over yet. Xylem replied. The artificial star he made just now, the temperature of the final explosion in the center was almost hundreds of billions of degrees, and lasted for a few seconds. This trick completely consumed his 100 billion faith power. Part 2. But now 100 billion beliefs are just a drop in the bucket for him now, so he doesn't have to worry about it. If you can't kill one trick, just start the next trick. In 50,000 years, his stunt of simulation and conception was not the only one. Because of his growth talent, his actual age has already exceeded 1 million years. Various abilities have been increased terribly. Among them is Shillong's extremely optimistic gravity. These are the 4 fundamental forces of the universe. The terrifying black hole is closely related to this. He ingested a plutonium star from his side into his paw, then began to inject gravity into it frantically, and the power of faith to increase gravity. Hum. The plutonium star in Shillong's paws collapsed. Hum. 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 Continuously, the size of the plutonium stars is constantly decreasing. The protons that make up one of the plutonium stars continue to merge into electrons, and finally collapse into protons. The size of the plutonium star has been directly reduced by thousands, tens of thousands of times. It went from a plutonium star to a neutron star. The density has reached an astonishing level of hundreds of millions of tons per cubic centimeter. It is tens of millions of white dwarfs, hundreds of millions of times. It is tens of thousands of times as large as the special plutonium star made by Shillong. The gravitational force of the specially formed neutron star has reached an incalculable point. The entire star system is captured by its infinite gravity. Instantly messed up, the huge red giant star was directly attracted and slowly slammed toward the neutron star. Other planets began to fly around in disorder, one by one, all flying towards the small neutron star in Shillong's claws. Midway, the planets collided with each other, bursting out the most brilliant fireworks in the entire starry sky. Everything is like a moth to the fire, flying to the little seed star. This terrible suction force is hard for Shillong itself to resist, and it takes almost every megasecond to spend 1 billion beliefs to bless its own gravity against the gravity of the ball itself. Over time, no matter how much Shillong's faith is, it will be absorbed. This kind of trick, with the power of Shillong's faith now, is not enough to make 50 rounds. And tens of thousands of kilometers away, the bodies of the two white light were also flashing crazily, maintaining themselves with divine power and resisting the attraction of neutron stars. Even Sakura's, who had always been fearless, changed my color slightly and flew to the neutron star uncontrollably. Feel this despair. Sakura's. The neutron star is extinct. On Shillong's claws, all repulsive power broke out. The small neutron star ball, which has become pure black, blasted towards Sakura's, which was shrouded in planetary shadows. Nearly 10,000 kilometers per second. When the small neutron star moves, the planets in the entire star system that were originally like moths also turn their directions and move with the small neutron star. Even the light has to detour when encountering this small black ball like a neutron star. Hum. When this small neutron star encountered Sakura's, which was captured by gravity and also hit it. You reptiles. I am undefeated. Sakura shouted again. Hum. When the small neutron star hits the planetary phantom, the phantom is distorted and dissipated in an instant. When the little neutron star completely landed on Sakura's, his whole body also began to twist. The bones of the whole body were shattered, including the spirits, all stuck on the little neutron star. No matter how hard he struggled when he became broken bones, all became futile, and he could only keep roaring souls. The little neutron star will not stop moving because of his roar. It is still moving in a certain direction at an astonishing speed, attracting everything that can be absorbed and filling itself. Gradually, he got farther and farther away from Shillong and the two light balls. Everything is over. Can you take me to the plane I want now? Xylem turned his head and asked for two of light. Question mark. The two of light were taken aback. I don't think Sacred's spirit has been annihilated. Are you not afraid that he will escape? Escape? No, that's impossible. Shillong shook his head. You two mysterious test guys, don't you even know the scientifically tested neutron star? Sacred's absorbed by the neutron star, even if it is immortal and immortal, it will never be able to get rid of the suction of the neutron star. That neutron star will swallow everything. When it encounters certain stars, it will either directly swallow the star's material and then continue to wander in the universe. Either encounter those red giant stars, the two react directly, touch the bottom line of neutron star density, and turn into real black holes. Sacred's might not even have the strength to scream by then. Become a living who is not as good as death, or a living demon. Now I can only wish him good luck. Later, when he encounters red giants and black holes, at least he can shout more. Xylem explained indifferently. Neutron stars and what black holes are, these two white light naturally know. The current plane is a big plane, possessing these two things. It was precisely because of knowing that the two white were shocked. The female voice sighed, your power is so serious Wuxia world. Online can use such a trick. Even if I am hit by this trick, I will definitely die. It seems that Sacred's evil life has come to an end at this moment. Thank you for your help. You have brought peace to the endless plane. You are really a pure and kind dragon. She kept praising Shillong because she was happy. This is the news that the endless plane knows. Xylem replied, accepting the other's compliment. After the Burning Legion did not have Sacred's, it would inevitably enter a complete defeat that lasted for dozens of years. But these temporarily have nothing to do with Shillong and the two light groups. Because Shillong asked the horse to look for clues to the main material plane. I want to go home. Chapter 350. The two of light didn't talk nonsense and quickly entered the plane where they first met the Mother Earth god, and then began to use their unparalleled mighty force to push the plane back. Like a slideshow, endless phantoms circulate on the surface of the ball of light, with at least hundreds of thousands of alternate images per second. If it's a mortal thing, you can't see anything at all. You can only see a fixed picture, the color of which is constantly changing. Only a great creature like Shillong with the ultimate reaction speed can see the changing faces inside, such as time going backwards, stars, humans, beasts, time and space channels, vicissitudes of life, and the transformation between endless planes. Finally, the portraits on the surface of the white ball of light finally stopped, and they found the plane where the Mother Earth was. There are too many believers who believe in Mother Earth, and the power of Mother Earth remains. After locking the target, the two ball of light and Zero quickly entered the portal. The main matter plane, perhaps the planet is more suitable. The plane where the main material planet is located is also a vast galaxy. It even surpasses the plane of the white ball of light. The size is more than 10 times. Among all planes experienced by Shillong, it was the closest to crossing the former blue star plane. The galaxies here are like the sands of the Ganges River, countless and immeasurable. On a planet like Shashua, this is the world of green and gray. The world at the level of the Middle Ages is full of natural breath and joyful harvest. Here is a planet under the rule of the Mother Earth God, where hundreds of millions of humans live. The human beings living here enjoy eternal tranquility and peace and a good harvest. The vast majority of people always have a smile on their faces. They are doing all kinds of things, always chanting a blessing of Mother Earth. Day after day, year after year, I live in this world where there seems to be no war and peace. Simple and happy. Until a huge portal that opened to the sky rose from the central temple of the Mother Earth Church. A dragon that was dozens of times larger than a mountain crawled out of it. As soon as that huge body appeared, it collapsed the entire temple, crushing countless mortals to death. The mortals who witnessed everything in the distance suddenly screamed in horror, some fled, and some kept praying to the Mother Earth God in place. Xylem glanced at everything around him, and didn't pay much attention to the damage he caused. Anyway, the concubine of the Mother Earth God, Luo Shanda's little golden face, can easily bring all these dead people back to life. Of course, those who turned into mud may be a little troublesome, but they can still come back to life after receiving the gods. He didn't need to worry about it anyway. Xylem didn't even feel ashamed about it. There is even a little cool, mad, Lo Shanda of Dog Day, telling you to target Lousy? Lao Tzu is obviously a good dragon and has become what he is now. It is your fault and the world's fault how you think. I used to be so pure and kind. Your Excellency, the plane you are looking for has been found. The white light female voice said. She seemed to scan the entire galaxy. After a while, he sighed, this is really a magnificent world. Not worse than the world I am in, or even more than that. Thank you for leading the way. I will leave here soon. Up to you. Shillong spoke, using a little power of faith to quickly condense a magic circle and disappear here. After Shillong left, the two ball of light returned to the original plane. Although Sacred's is sealed, the war is not over yet. They have to go back to fight. The bottomless abyss, the plain of flames. Molten Heart Valley. After more than 50,000 years of restoration, the molten lake has long been restored. The billowing heat wave evaporates upwards, and the entire Molten Heart Valley is in a hazy unreality. Within a radius of tens of kilometers, there is no living thing. And dozens of kilometers away, all kinds of flame creatures are rushing, with great vitality. There are two sharp contrasts with the Valley of Molten Heart. 100 kilometers long portal suddenly appeared horizontally from the sky. A huge black dragon slowly drilled out of the portal. The huge body not only covered the entire valley, but also the creatures outside the valley. When they raised their heads and saw the dragon in the sky, they all uttered a cry of horror. Some just ran. Some of the timid have fainted, and there is chaos for thousands of kilometers. Shillong didn't care about the chaos he caused, and he took a breath of gentle air in the flame abyss. The endless breath surged. Some flame creatures that were still on the run found that they couldn't control their bodies. Their entire bodies rose into the air and flew toward the head of the giant dragon, making them scream in shock. I thought I was going to be swallowed. But the next moment, this surging air flowed downward. All the flame creatures were blasted straight to the ground. Some were directly killed on the spot, and even the flames collapsed and died. Only a few cried fathers and mothers continued to escape. The cause of this devastating scene was just a simple breath of Shillong. He slowly landed on the surface of Molten Core Lake and whispered, "Saffron, your old friend came to see you. Won't you come out and have a look?" The voice rolled down, and the entire molten lake shook endlessly, even igniting huge waves hundreds of meters high. Hundreds of kilometers are roaring. There was no sound in the molten lake, and there seemed to be no living things at all. Okay, Shillong frowned slightly. Saffron, would he leave home too? Shouldn't this guy be a 10,000-year-old house? When I knew it before, I would find it every time I came here. What is it now? To be honest, Shillong would not have come to Saffron the first time. He must be looking for Armin and Viola, but in reality it is not allowed. These two dragons have gone through 50,000 years, and by this time they should have been in the realm of Bahamut. He wanted to contact Bahamut, but he had tried it before. Ordinary metal dragons can communicate as long as they chant the name of the old dragon Bahamut sincerely. But Shillong didn't have any effect in the light. For this reason, he can only change his mind, first return to the abyss, and then use the abyss as a point to communicate with the main material realm Dragon Island, so that the dragon and Bahamut there communicate. But since they have come to the abyss, it seems that there is no problem to visit Saffron first. But right now, even Saffron isn't there anymore. He began to scan around and soon found Saffron in a valley where the temperature was not too high, thousands of kilometers away. Seeing what Saffron had done, Shillong's expression suddenly became strange. It seems very surprised. With a strange mood, he continued to fly slowly towards the valley where the opponent was. Black Forest Valley. This is the lowest temperature place in the entire molten abyss. The entire valley is dark, like charcoal after burning. The entire valley is not small, covering an area of at least 100,000 square meters. Because of the distance here, Shillong was not noticed at all, nor was it affected by the escape thousands of kilometers away. Around the entire valley, halfway through the dark mountain, surrounded by large swaths of fire creatures, they stared at the center of the mountain with fiery eyes. There is a rectangular battle table of 20 by 10 meters. This is a duel table. On one side stood a molten giant who was over 20 meters tall. This molten giant wore a special leather glove to completely isolate his temperature from the outside world. In its hand, it was holding two cards as small as mosquitoes. On the opposite side of this giant, there stands a flame giant that is completely composed of flames and lava, constantly twisting, and this giant has two horns like demons. He is only 20 meters tall, wears a pair of special leather gloves, and holds a few cards in his hand. Part 2. Between the two monsters, there are virtual monsters. On the desktop on the side of the lava giant, there is a virtual lava giant that looks like a lava giant on the desktop. The height of this virtual lava giant is about 3 or 4 meters, and the fiery air current is rising around him, looking extraordinary. Opposite the flame giant, there was only one flame snake. At this time, the lava giant laughed wildly. Ha ha ha! Lord Saffron, this 695th legend of the Continental Heroes. The Lord of the Flame Abyss duel. I have taken it by Caden. You? Duel King? No, no, no. The strongest duel king of the Flame Abyss can only be my great king of the Flame Demon. Lord Saffron, you want to defeat me 1,000,000 years early. Saffron laughed. Huh, Lord Saffron, let's see what card it is. The abyss is helping me. The lava giant roared, and the huge right-hand finger quickly inserted the card just drawn into the slot on the duel table. There was a hum. Another lava giant slightly larger than the previous lava giant appeared on the table. Lava giant Seamus Molten Fire Quality, Purple Crystal, 8 attack, 8 life, 8 special effect, Molten Body, When attacking, 1 point of damage is added to the left and right sides of the target. For every fire elemental race card on the battlefield, each round can restore the fire elemental card x1 health. Molten Bonds. When this card appears together with the Lava Giant Kaden, the 2 Lava Giants will each get an attack, with a +2 life buff, and get the Steel Body effect that reduces damage by 1. Gahaha. Witness the power of the bond between me and Brother Seamus. Cardan roared, and looked at each other affectionately for a few seconds with the Lava Giant Simo who was watching the battle. When I transfer my head again, the 2 Lava Giants are buffed by the buffs, and their attacks both reach 10 points. Big Brother Seamus attack. Smash the Flame Serpent of Lord Suffren. Win the crown of victory for our sincere bond. Oh. The Lava Giant on the desktop roared in bursts, and, in coordination with the rumbling sound of running, came to the Flame Giant Snake, and the huge Flame Giant fist hit. Pong. -10 when the Giant fist hit the Flame Giant also launched a deadly blow, and its tail slammed on the Lava Giant. Pong. 5-0 in a screaming scream, the Flame Giant Snake dissipated. Master Saffron, there are no more followers on your battlefield, but there are still 2 invincible Lava Giants on my field. At the end of this round, all will rise above 6 lives, even if you use the legendary card of your life. Never want to beat me. Cardan was full of spirits, and the flames all over his body were burning, unusually bright. This is the unique performance of fire creatures when they are excited. You guy, I remember you didn't have a Seamus card before, and with your poor financial strength, you can't afford this card. Suffren stared at the opponent and said slowly, Haha, Lord Saffron, you are right. We are different from the wealth that you have achieved after the cooperation with the Soderbergh Chamber of Commerce. As a demon of poverty, after consuming a lot of property to build my current deck, I can only update my deck slightly every year, but this will not stop my desire for victory. Brother Seymour supports me. I have lent this card to me. See it? This is the bond between me and Brother Seamus. It brought me the glory of victory. The Lava Giant Kaden shouted. After the roar, he began to look at him affectionately for 10 seconds. Humph. Suffren snorted coldly. Stupid Cardan, you think this will be able to defeat the highest king of the Flame Abyss duel for 100 times? Lord of the Flame Abyss, the great Lord Sulfuron? Too naive. Sulfuron calmed down and slowly drew out the leftmost card track that has not been used. I had expected you Lava Giants to make some dirty trades for this tournament. For this reason, I have already prepared to deal with the special fetters formed by you and it. Look at what this is, Suffren said. His huge gloved fingers pinched a small card into the battle slot. A countdown explosive barrel composed entirely of ice crystals appeared on the battlefield. This is a purple epic card. Super Goblin Freeze Bomb? Cardan was shocked. Yes, a goblin technology product that can cause 5 damage to the audience with 8 crystals. Its special effect, if the fire elemental creature is bombed, the damage is doubled. Die. Insect. Feel the roar of the goblin bomb. Saffron roared. The freeze bomb burst on the battlefield. A terrifying white mist emerged instantly, covering everything on the desktop battlefield Wuxia world. Online with 2 miserable roars, the 2 lava giants of life 6 and 7 were all killed. As the chill dissipated, there were only a few small black rocks on the battlefield that were about to lose their temperature. No! The lava giant Kaden exclaimed in horror, his fiery red eyes filled with despair. Haha, you're done. Cardan. Saffron laughed triumphantly. Finally, I was using a 2 crystal, and the Earth War Bear came to the battlefield. The standard combat power of 2 attacks, 3 lives, and a special entourage with ridicule is enough to deal with the next situation. My round is over. It's your turn, Cardan. Damn capitalist devil. Kaden roared, and when he stepped on the ground fiercely, the earth shook fiercely.
Thanks for watching. You can find the next videos in the playlist linked in the info card or directly on my channel. And as always, if you have any feedback, feel free to share it in the comments too.